Chapter 12:31. When they saw the divine light condensing on Indra's body again, all the cultivators and demons who were paying close attention heaved sighs of relief in their hearts. When they saw his arrogant roar at the sky, they clearly knew that the demon emperor had once again passed the third decay of the 5 decay of the celestial being. No cultivator has ever dared to pass through the 5 decays of celestial being in succession. The 5 decays of celestial being only happen after a certain period of time. I didn't expect His Majesty to pass through the third decay of the 5 decays of celestial being on his own. This is an unprecedented feat, even on the purple gold continent. However, if he can pass through the next 2 decays, it will be a real fortune. It's hard to pass through a tribulation. If an ordinary, peerless expert passes through all the 5 decays of celestial being in succession without any flaws, he will be rewarded by heaven and earth, which is enough to promote him to a higher realm in an instant. If His Majesty passes through all 5 decays, he will definitely become more powerful. Tian Yunzi took a deep breath. His eyes, which were originally calm, were now filled with excitement and expectation. He stared at the scene in the void without blinking. His Majesty has always been arrogant. The 5 decays of celestial being can never stop His Majesty. Peacock spat out this sentence with unusual certainty, her eyes exuding a heroic spirit. The 4th decay of the 5 decays of celestial being is the primordial spirit decay. Once the primordial spirit completely turns into ashes, he will really die. There is no turning back. Tian Yunzi said solemnly. Dong! Dong! At this moment, on the island, above Indra's head, a gigantic heavenly drum condensed once more. Muffled drum beats filled with boundless pressure rang out continuously, reverberating through the air, bringing about even greater pressure. At the same time, Dishur Tian clearly felt that the 12th tier black lotus in his body was about to dry up. Wisps of black chi of decay appeared in the demon mansion out of thin air, entangling the 12th tier black lotus. The luster on the black lotus was fading at a speed visible to the naked eye. 12th tier, 11th tier, 10th tier. The primordial spirit of the black lotus was rapidly deteriorating. The power of the primordial spirit was fading, and a great sense of weakness spread out in his body. Humph! This emperor's primordial spirit was accumulated by me bit by bit. Heaven and earth! What right do you have to destroy my primordial spirit? Demon refining cauldron, protect this emperor's primordial spirit, refine the power of decay, and suppress the demon residents. My primordial spirit is immortal. Dishurtan raised his eyebrows, and the purple gold king mark on his forehead suddenly burst forth with a vast pressure. Every word he spoke was sonorous and forceful, and it emitted an unwavering and unquestionable majesty of an emperor. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw that in the vast demon manor within his body, one couldn't see the end of it. An exceptionally exquisite and simple demon refining cauldron that was as translucent as jade sat at the center of the demon dwelling. It spun in circles, and on the cauldron, runes that seemed to have been created by the world constantly flashed, giving off an ancient aura of creation. The black lotus origin spirit, which had been rapidly withering, rushed into the demon refining cauldron and used the cauldron to suppress his origin spirit. An ancient aura came from the cauldron and surrounded the origin spirit. The jade cauldron continued to spin, and countless mysterious runes imprinted on the origin spirit. Whoosh whoosh! Wisps of thick and terrifying black gas appeared on the origin spirit. These wisps of black gas turned into demons and demons that wantonly devoured the essence of the origin spirit, causing the black lotus origin spirit to weaken continuously. However, under the runes, one could clearly see that the wisps of black gas were constantly colliding with the flames formed by the runes and were even annihilated. The wisps of black gas were constantly being worn down. With the demon refining cauldron suppressing the origin spirit, the decay power from the outside could not enter the cauldron and could not entangle the origin spirit. The original black gas on the origin spirit was constantly being refined and consumed. Boom, boom, boom. Every time the demon refining cauldron spun, a large amount of decay power was refined. After 9 spins, the black gas that entangled the origin spirit was completely stripped away. Once the black gas was stripped away, the Black Lotus origin spirit, which had been reduced to a grade 9 Black Lotus origin spirit, immediately burst forth with amazing potential and quickly broke through the restraints, taking back the origin spirit that had been stripped away. Grade 10, Grade 11, Grade 12. Above his head, the essence of the world formed a huge energy vortex. A large amount of essence of the world poured into his body. In the blink of an eye, his Black Lotus origin spirit returned to its original cultivation. Gradually, the Black Lotus origin spirit became more and more solid and stable. Every inch of the origin spirit seemed to be made up of countless mysterious Taoist patterns. As soon as the origin spirit was restored, the origin spirit decay was immediately overcome. Compared to before, it was much easier. The 4th decay of the 5 decays of celestial being, the origin spirit decay. Overcome. From the outside, one could only see that on Sakra's body, his aura was weakening at an astonishing speed, as though he had suffered a heavy blow. Time was reversed, and he returned to his weak state. However, this feeling of weakening was stopped in an instant. Not only that, in the blink of an eye, the weakened aura once again grew and recovered at an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, it had reached its peak state. His Majesty actually broke through the 4th decay so quickly. Tian Yunzi's eyes were filled with shock. I wonder what kind of method His Majesty used to overcome the origin spirit decay, which is not inferior to the 6 senses decay, the Elf Queen muttered to herself in surprise. The 5th decay is the 7 emotions decay. I wonder what kind of method His Majesty used to overcome it. The 7 emotions decay does not weaken one's lust, but it weakens one's resistance to lust. In the end, one's mind will be immersed in irresistible lust, and they will sink into oblivion forever. This will last until they fall. However, this decay happens to be His Majesty's strength. His Majesty will eventually overcome the 5th decay of the heavenly being. Tian Yunzi's eyes were filled with excitement. He seemed to be looking forward to the final outcome. He saw the supreme creation after overcoming the 5th decay of the heavenly being. This kind of creation was hard to witness, even for a peerless expert. What excited him the most was that Dishur Tian was already a half-step sovereign expert. Now that he had overcome the 5th decay of the heavenly being and obtained the creation, it was possible that he would directly take the crucial step to become a supreme sovereign and become the supreme existence between heaven and earth. Dong dong dong. At this moment, Dishur Tian broke through the 4th decay of the heavenly being. The heavenly drum appeared out of thin air once again. On the heavenly drum, countless images of lust continued to circulate and flash, emitting an endless aura of decay. This heavenly drum did not have a drum hammer, but it actually produced a dull drum sound on its own. It spread out. The 5th decay of the heavenly being, the 7 emotions decay. Dishurkian's eyes quickly landed on the heavenly drum. He could clearly see that the endless power of lust on the heavenly drum had transformed into the power of the 7 emotions decay and was about to spread across heaven and earth. The divine light in his eyes was enough to look down on the heavens. He coldly said, "I have cultivated the power of lust since I was young. The 7 emotions and 6 desires exist in my heart. How dare you? The 7 emotions decay descend? I am the source of all evil. If you dare to disobey, I will devour you." Roar! The black tiger's body rapidly expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. Around him, 12 indestructible divine rings spun at an astonishing speed. 1,000,000 feet. 1,000,000 feet. His whole body became like a giant. He opened his mouth and directly swallowed the heavenly drum that had not yet disappeared in the void. Suddenly, a piece of the void was bitten off. The heavenly drum was directly swallowed into his stomach. I am the source of all evil. All the power of lust is integrated into my body. In his body, the heavenly drum suddenly collapsed and turned into a huge power of lust, which burst out in his body. However, before the power of lust could produce its power, a powerful devouring force was emitted from his Huangji aperture acupoints, which crazily swept the power of lust in his body into again. After dividing it up, it didn't let Sakura himself get any benefits. Your Majesty actually swallowed the heavenly drum directly? When the Five Elements Patriarch saw this, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His eyes were full of disbelief. Even the 5 decays of celestial beings are for his own use. The Demon Emperor, Tian Yunzi, sucked in a breath of cold air. Although they already knew that the decline of 7 emotions was the least threatening to the Sakura and was the easiest to overcome, they didn't expect that he would use such a method to directly swallow it in one gulp. It was so domineering that it practically shocked the heavens. Boom! Boom! When he swallowed the heavenly drum, the island suddenly shook violently. A ray of 5-color divine light instantly descended from the void and shrouded Di Shirtian's entire body in the divine light at an astonishing speed. Within the divine light, endless mysterious power poured into his body like a tide. It drilled into every inch of his flesh. Originally, the bones that were forcefully fused together by his willpower had countless cracks. However, under the 5-color divine power, they all healed and became a perfect whole. His bones became stronger at an astonishing speed. His flesh, bones, primordial spirit, 6 senses, and even his willpower were constantly undergoing astonishing changes under the 5-color divine power. The flesh and primordial spirit that were forcefully disintegrated were once again fused together under the 5-color divine power. The extreme Emperor talisman and the Black Lotus primordial spirit merged again, forming new extreme Emperor imperishable Emperor talismans. His cultivation was restored to the half-step sovereign realm. The 12 imperishable divine rings of the extreme Emperor immortal body had materialized and were close to completion. As long as he had enough power, he could promote it to the 13th level. The 13th imperishable divine ring was formed. The greatest benefit was his divine body of will. Under the infusion of vast power, the divine body of will sitting in each extreme Emperor imperishable Emperor talisman grew rapidly. Countless Emperor willpower crystals were splitting, growing, and transforming. Soon, each divine body of will was 10,000 feet tall. Moreover, it was still growing as if there was no limit and no end to it. When each divine body of will reached 30,000 feet tall, the extreme Emperor true apertures that were hidden around him emerged again and crazily plundered the vast power that was pouring into his body. The apertures that were already 90% full were growing at an astonishing speed. In the divine light, Di Shirtian looked down at the heavens and exuded an awe-inspiring Emperor's aura. The oppressive aura emanating from his body continued to rise with every passing moment. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 1232. Those who have tickets, please help me buy 2 tickets. I knew it. With His Majesty's ability, it won't be difficult for him to survive the 5 decay. As expected, a tribulation is a blessing. If he doesn't survive it, it will be a tribulation. If he survives it, it will be a blessing. His Majesty will definitely obtain boundless benefits this time and advance to an even more unbelievable realm. He might even become a sovereign. Xingyu laughed heartily. You knew that Daddy is the most powerful. No one in this world can beat Daddy. Diur said firmly in a tender voice. Her little face was full of pride. After surviving the 5 decay, there will be great blessings. I don't know if my husband will be able to reach the sovereign realm this time. I hope it won't be the same as the previous few times. Boundless power will sink like a stone in the sea. May Xin said thoughtfully. She had a feeling that he might not be able to reach the sovereign realm this time. She found it hard to imagine what Di Shitian's imperial body was made of. It was like a bottomless pit. Even after several great blessings, his body still couldn't be filled. Boom, boom. This enlightening divine light lasted for a full 15 minutes before it dissipated with a bang. At the same time, countless heavenly sounds reverberated around Di Shitian's body. Fairies danced in the air, golden flowers fell, and purple-gold-colored glass divine light revolved around him. Faintly, there was a strange fragrance that spread into the void. Rumble. In an instant, in the vast primal chaos, streaks of chaos divine lightning appeared out of nowhere. They crazily shuttled back and forth in the primal chaos, emitting waves of shocking thunder that shook the primal chaos void. Even the primal chaos outside the sovereign realm was the same. The purple-gold lightning shuttled back and forth. It swept across the heavens. The vast thunder roared, as if it was the scene of doomsday. All kinds of heavenly omens flashed one after another. What's going on? Chaos divine lightning. Such a large scale of chaos divine lightning. How did it come to be? Could this be a heavenly omen? What is it? What is it that can cause such a huge heavenly omen? Could it be that some inconceivable supreme treasure has appeared? Or is it that someone has cultivated to the primordial supreme realm and become one of the supreme existences? Or is it the birth of some supreme demon god? In a sovereign god domain, the primordial gods and demons looked at the chaos outside in shock. In the blink of an eye, discussions quickly spread throughout the sovereign god domain. Such a heavenly omen had never appeared in the chaos in the past. Even the 9 primordial supremes watched in silence for a long time before disappearing. 108 imperial emperor true apertures, all of which have reached perfection. Today, the barrier that prevented this emperor from advancing has finally been completely filled. As the divine light dissipated, Di Shitian's figure flickered, and it already transformed back into his emperor's body. He wore a black emperor's robe and stood tall in the sky. There seemed to be an astonishing amount of power hidden around him at all times. His eyes revealed an expression of relief. The imperial emperor's true acupoint that had always been like a bottomless pit in his body had finally reached perfection in one go under the enlightenment of this great fortune. It was completely filled to the brim. Ha, good, good, good. Lunatic D, you can finally ascend to the sovereign realm once your acupoints are fully opened. I wonder what kind of amazing power these acupoints will bring to you in the end. Dark squealed excitedly. If it weren't for the acupoints, he would have already ascended to the sovereign realm long ago. Now that he had finally broken through the barrier, as long as he had enough power, everything would come naturally. Now that his acupoints were fully opened, the final barrier to becoming a sovereign was completely opened. Sovereign? Easily within reach. However, now is not the best time to ascend to the sovereign realm. This emperor has come to the ancient city of chaos. Di Shitian took a deep breath. Whether he should ascend to the sovereign realm as soon as possible was not within his consideration. On the contrary, the primordial chaos city was the most important matter. Yao Emperor, you have withstood the 5 decays of heaven and man without dying. You have already passed this cosmic decay's formation. You are also qualified to inherit the ancient city of chaos. Come on up. I can't wait to taste the fine wine and delicacies you have brought. The ingredients from the sacred reincarnation spirit tree are rare even in the eternal celestial realm. At this moment, a hearty laugh came from the void. Following the voice, a simple and unadorned stairway to heaven appeared out of nowhere and quickly extended to Di Shitian's feet. As you wish, I dare not invite you. Di Shitian smiled faintly and stepped onto the stairway, quickly climbing to the top of the Carefree Islands. On the stairway, one could clearly see the countless islands that formed the Carefree Islands. On each island, one could see all kinds of different phenomena. There was a yellow dragon coiling in the sky, a fiendish tiger roaring in the sky, poisonous insects dancing in the air, sword chi streaking across the sky, and so on. Up the stairway. In a few moments, one could see boundless, wondrous scenery. Finally, he arrived at the 9th layer of the Carefree Islands. There were only 9 huge islands in the 9th layer. However, these 9 islands gave him a faint sense of deadly threat. There must be a terrifying killing array hidden within these islands. Even if a ruler came, they would not be able to cross these 9 islands. However, these were not what attracted his attention. When he shifted his gaze, it finally landed on the vast ancient city that occupied the center of the 9 islands. This ancient city was different from the demon court. It had 4 ancient walls that seemed to be able to withstand the attacks of the heavens. These 4 walls stood tall in all directions, encompassing the ancient city and protecting the living beings in the ancient city. Upon closer inspection, one could see that these 4 walls were not ordinary walls. They were a perfect whole, without any traces of piling up. It was as if they were a perfect whole from the moment they were born. On the walls, scrolls after scrolls of paintings were constantly being displayed. There were scenes of the primordial gods and demons being born in the primordial chaos. There were scenes of the primordial gods and demons fighting each other. There were scenes of countless demon gods on the demon god continent falling, fighting, and even dying. There were also scenes of various races in the purple gold continent conquering each other and even exterminating races. There were scenes of ancient divine tombs. There were scenes of the primordial spiritual roots and the birth of the divine tree of life, which gave birth to life, until it grew into a towering tree. On the walls, one could even see scenes of peerless geniuses breaking through the shackles of the heavens and earth with unparalleled talent and opportunities to control the great Tao of the heavens and earth. There were also powerful divine weapons, demonic weapons, connate spirit treasures, ultimate treasures, and so on that could shake the world, shatter the void, annihilate the world, and shatter the chaos. Every single one of these treasures shone with the brightest divine light in the picture on the city wall. This was the glory of their peak. There were vast mountains and rivers, and a vast universe. Almost anything one wanted to see could be seen from the top of the city wall. It seemed that these were not just the 4 walls, but a historical record that recorded the growth of the entire primordial chaos, the birth of all living beings in the primordial chaos, and even the glory of the primordial chaos. It was a history that belonged to each individual powerhouse. It was a history of civilization that could be sung and wept in the heavens and earth. A single glance at it was enough to fill one with the aura of the primordial chaos. It was almost as if one's mind was completely immersed in the history of civilization. What's this? Sakura only felt that what he saw in front of his eyes wasn't a city wall, but a vivid epic. It was the experience of experts fighting against the heavens for their lives. It was the undying spirit. It was a stroke of thick ink and heavy color that was written in the chaos. On the walls, he saw himself and everything that had happened since the birth of Tiger Hill. Step by step, he had reached the peak of his power. Is this really the city of primordial chaos? The walls seemed to be inscribed with countless important events in the primordial chaos, as well as countless glorious experts. So many tragic battles. What kind of city of primordial chaos is this? Is this city really the essence of the primordial chaos? Or is it somehow connected to the world of primordial chaos? Underworld was gaping in shock. Although he had long since guessed what it would be like to see the city of primordial chaos, what did it contain? What was in the primal chaos city? Even if they guessed that there might be terrifying enemies in the city, they would never have guessed that the primal chaos city would be like this. They hadn't even entered the city, but just the 4 walls were already enough to shock them to the extreme. This city of primordial chaos seemed to contain some extraordinary secret. Putting aside what was in the city, just the fact that the 4 walls were engraved with countless epic tales of growth was an unparalleled wealth that no treasure in the world could exchange for. Inside, one could increase one's wisdom, view the history of civilization, broaden one's horizons, broaden one's mind, and look forward to ancient times. Tion wasn't in a hurry to enter the city. Instead, he pulled out a prayer mat and sat down in front of the city. He closed his eyes and calmly immersed himself in the history of civilization, observing the profound truths contained within. He was expounding on a grand Tao. He sat there for an entire year. The imperial ambition is a joke, but it's nothing more than a dream in the human world. After a long time, Tion, who was sitting in front of the city of primordial chaos, slowly stood up. In the process of standing up, his temperament faintly underwent a transformation that no one could understand. The emperor's aura on his body had unknowingly reached an endless state of perfection. In his deep eyes, there were countless rays of wisdom flickering faintly. At a glance, he could see through the mysteries of heaven and earth. It was as if all the major events in the world of primordial chaos were in his heart. Hee. A year of meditation. It seems that you have gained a lot, Shifter Emperor. However, I have been waiting here for your wine and delicacies for an entire year. If I don't come in, I will really starve to death. At this moment, Carefree Scholar's laughter came from the city. It's my fault for making you wait for so long. I will punish myself with 3 cups of wine. Tion smiled faintly and walked straight into the ancient city. The door he was walking towards was the south gate. There were no guards at the gate, and it was directly open. One could enter and exit freely. There were no restrictions. Patter! The dull sound of footsteps echoed as Tion stepped into the ancient city. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1233. I'm going to apply for annual leave. I only have 1 chapter for today. I need to rest early. I have to catch a train tomorrow. As soon as he stepped into the ancient chaos city, he scanned his surroundings. He saw that there was an impenetrable fog around him. Vaguely, there were divine chains of laws shuttling back and forth in the fog. They flashed one after another, bringing with them the charm of the great Tao. They formed an inexplicable pressure. There were heavenly pillars of the great Tao that seemed to be there, but not there. They were faintly discernible. They seemed to exist, but also seemed to be a distant illusion. Under the chaotic fog, even with Tion's eyesight, he could not see anything more than 300 feet away. It was as if the entire city was shrouded in a kind of fog. It was difficult to see clearly. Whoosh! As soon as he entered, the fog in front of him quickly retreated and separated into 2 sides. A straight path without fog appeared in front of him. It extended all the way to a pavilion. Around the pavilion was a quiet lake. Lotuses bloomed on the lake. The fragrance of the flowers permeated the air. It was as if it was spring. There were countless lifelike figures of heavenly maidens carved on the pavilion. There were zither, flutes, and many other musical instruments. They automatically emitted beautiful music. Lifelike heavenly maidens walked out of the pavilion and danced gracefully. It was a wonderful scene. Shifter Emperor, please take a seat. Carefree Scholar sat in the pavilion calmly. When he saw Tion, he smiled faintly and invited him. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Indra nodded and walked up the stairs unhurriedly. Step by step, he walked into the pavilion and sat down in front of Carefree Scholar Xiaoyao. With a wave of his hand, plates of steaming hot delicacies appeared on the table like floating clouds and flowing water. It's okay. Cultivation has no concept of time. The sun and moon in a pot are long. Time has lost its meaning to us. However, after meeting you today, I'll have to leave again. The one here is just a clone of mine. Carefree Scholar smiled casually. He looked at the 10,000-year-old 100 flowers fairy wine on the table. He naturally picked it up and poured 2 cups. He brought it to his mouth and slowly tasted it. Sir, I wonder how this primal chaos city was formed. The history of the entire primal chaos city is inscribed on it. The various races of the purple gold continent, the demon god continent, the billions of demon gods, the countless ferocious beasts of the primal chaos city, and the countless primordial gods and demons. This is the history of the many races. What is the origin of this primal chaos city? Indra picked up the immortal brew in front of him and poured it into his mouth, voicing out the doubts in his heart. When he was traveling through the vast history of civilization, he had obtained great benefits. Every piece of history of civilization brought him endless wisdom and foundation, allowing his realm to become even more perfect and his ultimate Emperor Grand Tao to become even more proficient. But he was curious about the origin of Primal Chaos City. This ancient city of chaos seemed to have existed since the birth of chaos. But was it refined by a powerhouse, or was it forged by a powerhouse? This was the doubt that existed in his heart. Sakura truly felt a carefree and unfettered aura from Carefree Scholar in front of him. He wasn't bound by anything in the world. This kind of aura made people feel close to him and trust him. The primal chaos was formed by the heavens. Carefree Hermit's face was filled with vicissitudes of life. He looked up at the void, as if reminiscing about something. After a long while, he sighed. Monster Emperor, do you know what exists above the primal chaos world? Could it be the primordial chaos? Di Shirtian raised an eyebrow. That's right. Above the primal chaos is the primordial chaos. 3,000 primordial purple chi can give birth to a primal chaos world. Carefree Hermit nodded approvingly. If the universe is divided into 3 levels, they can be divided into the primal chaos world, the eternal celestial realm, and the primordial chaos world. The eternal celestial realm is above the primal chaos and below the primordial chaos. It also exists in the primordial chaos. No living beings can survive in the primordial chaos world. There is only the endless power of the Great Tao. Once you enter, you will become the most fundamental Great Tao. That is why the eternal celestial realm exists. The eternal celestial realm contains all life. But every strand of primordial purple chi is a supreme treasure. Any connate spirit treasure will be greatly strengthened when fused with it. The primordial chaos ancient city is a supreme treasure that was born in the primordial chaos world. Carefree Hermit spoke slowly and summarized the universe in a few words. The primordial chaos ancient city is a supreme treasure that was born in the primordial chaos world. Then who was the first primordial chaos city lord? Sakura took a deep breath and calmly opened his mouth to ask for guidance again. Carefree Hermit was a treasure trove of unfathomable depth. Whatever he said was a secret that not many people in the primordial chaos world would know. The first primordial chaos city lord was naturally an artifact spirit that was born in the primordial chaos city. When the artifact spirit was born, the primordial chaos city lord used the primordial chaos city lord as his body. His combat strength rose to the sovereign realm, and he called himself the primordial chaos city lord. Carefree Scholar had a nostalgic expression on his face. He sighed faintly. Di Shirtian did not need to ask to know that the primordial chaos city lord must have met with an accident and died. Otherwise, how could the primordial chaos city be without a master? The primordial chaos city lord met with an accident and died. This primordial chaos city also fell into the primordial chaos world. That was the beginning of the primordial chaos world. Therefore, all the developments in the primordial chaos world were witnessed by the primordial chaos city. The vast history of civilization in the primordial chaos world is engraved on the city walls. Carefree Hermit smiled faintly. You will know all this after you inherit this ancient city and refine it. I am just telling you in advance. Sir, back when I entered the Dead Sea of Chaos, I saw a space-time projection along the way. It seemed to be a huge battle in the eternal celestial realm. May I ask how the factions in the eternal celestial realm are divided? Di Shirtian asked again. Opportunities like this were hard to come by. If he missed this opportunity, there would not be a second time. The more he knew about the eternal celestial realm, the better. This might be related to his future plans. Eternal celestial realm? Carefree Hermit had a strange look on his face. He shook his head and said, You will have to explore it yourself in the future. However, since we were able to meet here, it is fate. If you trust me, then run the demon court well. There are 3,000 great Daos in the demon court. The immortal rank is not the limit. If you can complete the 3,000 heavenly pillars and transform the laws of heaven and earth into the precepts of heaven and earth, the precepts of great Tao, that is the only way to reach the eternal rank. If you can do that, you will become a legend. There seemed to be some indescribable meaning in his words. There was an indescribable charm. D. Shirtian's eyes flashed with a strange light. With his wisdom, he could tell that there was something unusual in those words. In the pavilion, he and Carefree Hermit were enjoying the fine wine and delicacies while talking about the past and present. An unrestrained aura flowed around them, forming a different charm. Meanwhile, on the purple gold continent, in the depths of a wild mountain forest, there was a vast green grassland full of vitality. On the grassland, there were cows and sheep running, eagles flying, and nine-headed strange birds making sharp cries. It seemed that it was full of the rules of natural selection. However, in this grassland, there was a scene that was not known to outsiders. There was a universe inside. If one was outside and did not have a special ability, all they could see was the scene of the vast grassland. It looked and felt no different from the real thing. However, this was just a layer of mysterious concealment. Under the cover, it was a terrifying and lonely scene. The ground was pitch black, and there was not a single blade of grass. There was a sharp contrast between reality and illusion. Every inch of the ground was exuding a strong aura of depravity. It seemed to be filled with endless filth. Anything with life that landed on it would be strongly eroded. If a magic treasure landed on it, it would be tainted in the blink of an eye and lose its spirituality. Flowers and trees could not grow here at all. There was no soil for them to grow. At this moment, in this strange area, there was a group of powerhouses standing in midair. Each of the human cultivators naturally exuded a unique will and a unique charm. Each of them exuded an extremely powerful aura, causing the surrounding space to become slightly heavy. At the same time, in the void, there were many supreme divine artifacts that were filled with majestic aura, suppressing the surroundings. The myriad green lotus of swords, which was spewing out countless green lotus sword chi, was a total of 12 grades. As it spun, the lotus petals were constantly being destroyed and regenerated. It carried a mighty force that could shatter the void. There was also a golden book. In the book, there was a layer of dense, righteous aura. On the surface, there were countless scholars and great Confucians sitting upright, solemnly reciting the books of sages and famous sayings of world governance. It was as if the book contained endless principles. If one listened carefully, it was enough to increase one's wisdom and open one's spiritual cavities. Every sentence contained a profound truth, containing the thoughts of the Confucian school of thought to govern the world. It was the ultimate truth of heaven and earth. Every sentence was filled with righteousness. Every sentence stood on the side of justice and held a high position. The righteous aura in their hearts was everlasting, and the sun and moon would not fall. This was the Book of Righteousness, one of the 10 great divine artifacts of the human race. Immediately after, one could clearly see the kingdom of eternity, the Xiantian treasure box, the compass of heavenly secrets, the jade vase, the 8 treasures pool of virtues, the 10,000 demons painting, and the great void wheel. Other than the heavenly cycle stellar map that was snatched away by D. Shirtian back then, the 9 supreme divine artifacts of the human race had all gathered in this area. Each of them exuded the extreme aura of a peak supreme divine artifact. It spread out in all directions like a tidal wave. There was a faint layer of mist on the faces of nearly 80 powerhouses, making it impossible to see their expressions clearly. These were all peerless powerhouses. They were the powerhouses of the human race's pantheon temple. The leader was Taishang Dao Ancestor, who was riding on the green ox. His face was expressionless, like a pool of stagnant water. Taishang Dao Ancestor looked at the powerhouses and said, "Everyone is here. Later, I will use my remarkable ability to open the passage into the abyss." Whether or not the human race can last for thousands of years will depend on whether or not we can obtain that supreme treasure this time. I hope that everyone can do their best. The divine artifact formed by the fusion of the 9 great divine artifacts will forcibly enter the immortal artifact realm for a short period of time. However, the incomplete heavenly cycle stellar map will not be able to hold on for long. Those who enter will leave it to fate. Taishang Dao, Ancestor, swept his gaze across the powerhouse's faces expressionlessly. The demon race is abominable, especially the demon emperor. He really deserves to be killed. He actually snatched the heavenly cycle stellar map by force. If not for that, how could the human race's plan, which had been planned for countless years, have any flaws? It can at least extend the fusion time by 10 times. A peerless powerhouse snorted indignantly. His words revealed his incomparable hatred for the demon race and the demon emperor. Don't worry, our sect has long predicted that there would be changes. So, back then, we secretly condensed another supreme divine artifact, the heavenly 10,000 Buddha pagoda. Although the heavenly cycle stellar map was lost, this pagoda is enough to replace the map and fuse into one. At this moment, Tathagata said in a deep voice. With a wave of his hand, a huge pagoda appeared in the void again. This pagoda had a total of 24 floors. On the pagoda, billions of Buddhist lights appeared. Countless Buddhas, devotees, Buddhas, arhats, bodhisattvas, Buddhas, and so on appeared one after another. They surrounded the pagoda and chanted sutras. The Buddhist chants all had the intention of persuading all living beings to betray the sect. As soon as they appeared, they naturally exuded a pressure that could suppress the heavens. Good. Everyone listen to my command. Eternal kingdom. Suppress the center and contain all the divine artifacts. Transform into the eternal heaven of the human race. Fuse. Taishang Dao Ancestor said slowly. The strong cultivators in the air entered the supreme divine weapons one after another. They took control of the divine weapons, and in the huge eternal kingdom, eternal divine rings burst forth, suppressing the void, as immovable as a mountain. First, the 8 treasures pool of virtue rushed into the eternal kingdom and became the source of vitality. Within the eternal kingdom, boundless divine light of virtue burst forth. The pressure emitted by the eternal kingdom instantly increased by a notch. Next, the flashing great void wheel followed into the eternal kingdom and strengthened the eternal kingdom. Once it fused into the eternal kingdom, one could clearly see that the entire eternal kingdom seemed to be formed by countless exquisite gears. They gathered together and revolved continuously like a precision instrument. The Black Sky treasure box fused into the eternal kingdom. 9 battle swords appeared in the eternal kingdom and stood in 4 directions, suppressing the void. They were the best weapons for killing. The 1,000 green lotus sword fused into the eternal kingdom. Countless green lotuses circled around the eternal kingdom and spat out waves of green lotus sword chi. The pristine jade bottle became the source of vitality. The myriad demons picture caused countless demons to appear in the eternal kingdom. Buddhas and demons merged at this moment. The compass of heavenly secrets fused into the eternal kingdom and guided it forward. The myriad Buddha's pagoda evolved into the heavens and formed billions of stars. On each star, there was a Buddha suppressing it. The book of righteousness became the source of vitality. Boundless righteousness poured into the eternal kingdom. In the blink of an eye, all 10 supreme divine artifacts fused into the eternal kingdom. The divine artifacts fused together. 10,000 artifacts fused into one. During the fusion, almost every moment, the aura of the eternal kingdom was expanding at an alarming rate and rising. Suddenly, an invisible restraint was broken, and a rich, immortal aura spread wildly in all directions. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1235. I made a post on the forum saying that I would update on the 8th day of the new year, so I will definitely keep my promise. I have always kept my promises, and this time is no exception. I am here to inform everyone that my annual leave is officially over. I will not stop updating every day until the end of this book. Brothers, the horn of war has been blown. Those who have monthly votes or recommendation votes, please help me write 2 chapters. Let's fight for the next month. Rumble. 10 supreme divine artifacts. And they were supreme divine artifacts that were fused together. Each of them was an extreme divine artifact. None of them could enter the ranks of the immortal divine artifacts because the great Tao in them was too singular. Even if they were developed to the extreme, they could not support the whole world. They could not support the growth of all things. They could not give birth to creation. This was a drawback that was inevitable when they were powerful. But now, the 10 supreme divine artifacts were fused together. It was equivalent to 10 extreme great Taos fusing together. They could temporarily support the world with their extreme power. They could temporarily rise to the ranks of the immortal divine artifacts. This was a wonderful method. It required the same refining method to forge them together. Only then could the fusion be successful. The drawback was that they were not real immortal divine artifacts. Perhaps its power was no less than that of an immortal divine artifact. In an extreme way, the power after the fusion would reach an incredible level. However, the fusion would not last long. Even when it collapsed and separated, the 10 supreme divine artifacts would also suffer considerable damage. The collapse of the fused immortal divine artifact was equivalent to the collapse of the great path inside. Naturally, the divine artifact would be damaged, but their power was undeniable. The moment the fusion was completed, countless bolts of lightning of various colors roared out of the void on the entire purple gold land. They kept making terrifying sounds of thunder. They connected the sky and the earth, densely packed, as if the end of the world was coming. What's going on? Is the annihilation tide coming early? Or is there some terrifying treasure that caused the world to change? What a terrifying thunderstorm. Every bolt of lightning has the destructive power to kill an ancient giant. Is it because of the advancement of those peerless geniuses in the heaven-toppling ancient map? I heard that in the battlefield in the heaven-toppling ancient map, a large number of geniuses were advancing at an astonishing speed. It was as if they had obtained the great luck of the purple gold land. His speed of improvement was insane. Furthermore, every time a powerful expert died, that expert's energy essence and cultivation base would mysteriously form a type of energy essence divine pill. Once one obtains it and consumes it, one would be able to absorb the other party's cultivation without any repercussions. Thus, one would be able to raise one's cultivation swiftly. Now, more and more experts have entered the heaven-toppling ancient diagram. Could it be the human race and the monster race? Recently, the human race and the monster race have been going all out, killing each other on the continent. The battle in the ancient painting of the heaven-collapsing ancient painting was even more intense. Who knows how many hidden geniuses of the human race? Her disposition was extraordinary. Recently, the Dragon Clan, Phoenix Clan, Cheelan Clan, and Black Tortoise Clan have been moving frequently, showing signs of moving closer to the Monster Clan. I'm afraid I'll have to return to the demon race. The appearance of the heavenly omen in the sky above the purple gold mainland shocked countless cultivators. At the same time, various speculations appeared within their minds. Various discussions broke out as they subconsciously discussed the several major events that were currently taking place. Especially when he talked about the battle for the 3 lists and 1 chart in the heaven-toppling ancient painting. He even talked about the battle between the human clan and the demon clan. Although it was just a few words, one could hear the strong smell of blood in it. Eternal heaven realm, suppress the chaos and enter the abyss. Taishang Dao, Ancestor, slowly spat out a sentence as his body entered the eternal heaven realm. One could see the immortal artifact formed by 10 supreme artifacts, eternal heaven realm. It was still in the shape of a flying saucer, just like the eternal kingdom, but its size had increased by thousands of times. It stood in the void, boundless and limitless. It exuded a strong, immortal aura. Crack! A huge crack suddenly appeared on the ground. Within that crack was eternal darkness. Any light that entered seemed to be swallowed up on the spot, and nothing could be seen. It exuded a quiet loneliness, forming an incomparably oppressive and terrifying aura. It was transmitted to every inch of space. In the darkness, there was an endless will of loss. Every trace and every strand contained an aura that made thousands of cultivators feel lost. In the end, they fell into silence. Loss. This was the lost abyss. Among the 9 great forbidden zones of the purple gold mainland, the one that terrified thousands of cultivators. Lost abyss. There was no time, no light, no life in the lost abyss. There was only an endless will of loss, endless darkness, and even terrifying depravity. Eternal heaven realm. Go straight into the abyss. Isolate the lost abyss. Eternal immortality. Black heaven 9 swords cut through the darkness. Tathagata Buddha scolded resolutely. Rumble. The eternal celestial realm shone with 9-colored divine splendor and exuded an aura of immortality. It charged directly into the lost abyss, but outside the eternal celestial realm, 9 different divine splendor condensed into 9 mysterious heavenly swords. With different supreme sword wills, they slashed at the endless darkness that filled the abyss. Each sword contained 2 extremely opposite forces, and as they were swung, they collided with each other. Ice and fire, darkness and light, yin and yang, life and death, disaster and creation, and so on. Every collision of 2 opposite forces would produce a destructive force 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times stronger. Crack! The 9 swords slashed at the endless darkness in the abyss. With a terrifying, tearing sound, the darkness was cut open like silk, and the eternal heaven realm immediately rushed into the crack. The protection of the 9 eternal divine rings blocked all external evils. Clang! Clang! As soon as the eternal celestial realm entered the lost abyss, the darkness and even lost energy within the abyss converged together and condensed into strange gray swords. Gray energy coiled around these swords, and they slashed down towards the eternal celestial realm in a dense wave. Be careful, these are lost swords. They can turn illusory, penetrate physical objects, break through physical barriers, and blast into flesh and blood to wear down one's will, producing the will of loss, and lure one's mind into loss. The 8 treasures pool of virtue, boundless merit, repels all evils. No evils can invade. When Lord Tathagata saw this, his expression turned serious. Instantly, the eternal celestial realm shone with millions upon millions of golden rays of virtuous godlight, which transformed into golden lotuses of virtuous godlight that swirled around the celestial realm and appeared beneath each of the lost swords. They collided with the swords, and an intense stalemate ensued. They were blocked outside, unable to take even half a step forward. Boom! 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 The eternal heaven realm did not stop at all, and it pierced straight into the depths of the lost abyss. In the blink of an eye, it broke through tens of thousands of feet. In front of it, huge meteorites that looked like strange stars hidden in the darkness appeared. It's the lost heavenly stars, the compass of heavenly secrets. Guide the way, avoid the heavenly stars, seek fortune and avoid calamity. Imperial. Taishang Dao Ancestor said without any change in his expression. There was no trace of fear in his eyes. He calmly activated the many mysteries of the eternal heaven realm. On a compass, the pointers changed directions rapidly, guiding the path of the entire divine artifact. Along the way, the lost celestial stars dodged and even pierced through them with exquisite methods. It was unusually accurate. Every lost heavenly star was a terrifying lost world, and once it collided with it, it would immediately be pulled in. In a lost world, There were all kinds of dangers, and even an immortal gray divine artifact might not be able to easily escape from it. Even a peerless expert would be in danger of dying in it. Heaven and earth are not benevolent, and all things perish. Demons, gods, ghosts, and humans, who can live forever, never be lost, return. Return. Rumble. In front of the lost abyss, giant tombstones appeared again. Countless mysterious inscriptions appeared on these tombstones, and gods, demons, beasts, ghosts, humans, and so on, with a gaze as if they were asking for the heavens, came out one after another, and strange words came out of their mouths. Over and over again. Over and over again. The cycle was endless. If the lost Tao slaves? A solemn expression appeared on Lord Tathagata's face as he said, "Legend has it that those who fall in the lost abyss do not truly die. Instead, they become Tao slaves in the lost abyss. They become slaves of the great Tao and pass on the lost radiance. Every single one of them, no matter how weak they are, will eventually become a Tao slave after falling into the lost abyss. Their strength will increase at an astonishing rate, at the very least reaching the level of a peerless expert. In the abyss, they are almost indestructible and are the most troublesome existence in the abyss. It seems that the rumors are not exaggerated at all. Resist with merit, resolve with Buddhist doctrine, open the way with the green lotus, and break through." The hundreds of peerless experts all had a resolute look on their faces as they reprimanded, just as the human race entered the lost abyss in an unprecedented manner. At this moment, in the ancient Chaos City, Di Shurtian and Carefree Scholar were also talking about the past and present. Of course, Carefree Scholar was talking most of the time, and Di Shurtian was listening silently. After all, their knowledge and experience were vastly different. During the conversation, he also received a lot of information that Carefree Scholar deliberately revealed. Among them, there were a few words about the cultivation direction of the sovereign realm, which often made him feel enlightened. However, there was one thing that whenever the ancient heaven realm was mentioned, Carefree Scholar's face would show a strange expression, and he would deliberately avoid the topic. It was as if he wanted to avoid the topic. Di Shurtian did not ask too much about it. Even so, he had gained too much. After a long time, when there was not a drop of wine left in the cup, Carefree Scholar smiled faintly and said, "Shifter Emperor, we have gathered and drunk. It's time to say goodbye. Before we part, I have something to say to you." "Sir, please speak." Shurtian is all ears. Di Shurtian put down the wine cup in his hand with a solemn expression and looked straight at Carefree Scholar. "If I'm not wrong, this chaos is about to face a catastrophe. In this catastrophe, the entire world of chaos may be destroyed. But calamity is not necessarily not fortune, and darkness is not necessarily not dawn. If you can combine the ancient city of chaos and your Ling Shao demon court into one, in the future, you will be able to achieve something truly unimaginable. You can reach a supreme position that looks down on all eternity. If you can gather all 9 tombstones, there will be a big surprise. That's all for today. If fate wills it, we will meet again in the future." Carefree Scholar smiled casually and said indifferently, "To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation." Chapter 1236. "Sir, how do I control the Primal Chaos City? Please enlighten me." Di Shurtian stood up and asked seriously. Although he had entered the Primal Chaos City, he still felt like he was looking at flowers in a fog. He did not have a real sense of control. Instead, he felt like he was unable to integrate into the Primal Chaos City. This is the origin of the Primal Chaos City's Primal Chaos City. It is the true core, the Primal Chaos Ancient Tablet. Carefree Scholar smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a huge tablet that was tens of thousands of feet tall appeared outside the pavilion. The huge tablet was majestic and could swallow the world. The huge tablet was an obelisk that pierced the sky. On the tablet, there were carvings of the primal chaos ancient beasts. Each of them had a majestic aura. Every feather, every inch of scale, and even every gaze seemed to contain the supreme truth of the primal chaos. They were the laws of the great Tao and the Tao of heaven and earth. It was as if each of the primal chaos ancient beasts contained a supreme cultivation manual. Every twisting pattern was a wondrous divine ability. Roar, roar, roar. Di Shirtian looked over and felt that he was not looking at a huge tablet, but a group of primal chaos ancient beasts. Each of them was more terrifying than an unparalleled expert. That aura was unstoppable. In the blink of an eye, there were roars of anger. It was as if one's soul was about to be scattered. But in an instant, this boundless beast chi instinctively stimulated Sakra's powerful emperor aura, and even the sovereign of the demon race, the spirit of the king of beasts. A towering tiger's roar burst out. Boom, boom, boom. The void that was originally shrouded in fog started to distort and spread at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, the entire mysterious primal chaos city appeared in front of them. The scenery inside flashed one after another, but then disappeared completely. The primal chaos city was shrouded in fog again. However, his consciousness also left the primal chaos ancient tablet. What a good primal chaos tablet. It actually possesses such a tyrannical aura. So this is the core of the ancient primal chaos city. Di Shirtian's countenance was solemn. Just from this ancient monument alone, he could clearly sense how powerful the entire ancient city was. That ancient monument was able to shake his heart and soul even without being activated. If it was activated, how terrifying would it might be? He, Demon Emperor, as long as you refine this primal chaos ancient tablet, you will naturally be able to control the entire ancient primal chaos city. However, to fuse the ancient primal chaos city with your demon court, it will not be easy. Whether or not you can do it depends on your own luck. Let's not talk too much. If fate wills it, we will meet again in the future. When Carefree Scholar saw that Di Shirtian already knew about the primal chaos ancient tablet, he smiled faintly. Suddenly, a rain of light appeared on his body. It was as if he had ascended to immortality. Feather after feather danced in the air. It was a beautiful sight. In the rain of light, his expression was free and unfettered. He was extraordinary. He smiled faintly and sang, "Ask the world how many heroes have fallen for the fragrance of a woman. Ask the world how many women and beauties have unlucky fates. Ask the world how many infatuated men and women have fallen for yin non fei. Ask the world how many nobles, generals, and ministers have fallen. Ask the world how many demons and ghosts have fallen for the cycle of reincarnation. Ask the world how many things have happened in the past and present, all in a song of Carefree Scholar." In the song, there were many things that happened in the past and present. There were many poems that contained the history of civilization, the vicissitudes of time. In the song, there was a kind of ethereal and carefree charm. It was not a pretense, but a true carefree and unfettered feeling. Carefree and unfettered. TSK, Carefree Scholar. What a song of Carefree Scholar. Such a scholar is truly an existence that stands at the peak of the world. He is an expert that truly enjoys the Tao of Carefree Scholar. Such a state, I'm afraid that even the supreme god of time might not have it. What kind of environment, what kind of talent could produce such an inconceivable scholar? Dark watched Carefree Scholar turn into a beam of light and disappear. He couldn't help but say with envy, "Unfortunately, this carefree great Tao doesn't suit you. Any kind of carefree great Tao requires absolute strength. Your Tao is the Tao of Emperor, the Tao of Desire, the great Tao of Emperor. With your ability, you may be able to reach Carefree Scholar's level." Every cultivator had their own Tao. The only difference was that they had to follow the footsteps of others. The Tao of Carefree Scholar was even less suitable for Di Shirtian. The Tao of Ultimate Emperor that one created was the foundation of one's self. That's right. Sooner or later, This emperor will stand on equal footing with you and drink together again. I won't be inferior to you right now." Indra's face revealed a resolute look, and there was a trace of decisiveness in his eyes. "Look, Carefree Archipelago is gone." At this moment, Huan cried out in surprise. Sakura swept his gaze outwards. Sure enough, the Carefree Archipelago, which was originally layered with countless hidden killing formations, actually dissipated after Carefree Scholar ascended. There wasn't the slightest sound, as if it had never appeared before. Only a vast ancient city was left standing in the chaos ocean. However, the chaotic space-time around it was still there. With blood as the guide, supreme imperial flame, primordial spirit, master of primordial chaos. A drop of golden-purple imperial blood seeped out of Di Shirtian's forehead. It quickly flew out and landed on the primordial chaos ancient tablet. As soon as it came into contact with the tablet, it fused into it. Chi! On the ancient boulder, a purple-golden monarch flame burst out from it. It quickly spread and enveloped the entire tablet in the blink of an eye. Traces of primordial spirit seeped into the tablet through the imperial flame and began refining it with a unique method. Boom! Boom! At the same time, the entire ancient primal chaos city shook violently, emitting intense vibrations. It was as though within the ancient city, there was a large and small amount of energy that was simultaneously obstructing him from refining the ancient monument. This resistance caused the speed of his refinement to be greatly hindered. At the same time, a strange scene appeared in his mind when his primordial spirit entered the tablet. It was as if he had entered another space-time in the blink of an eye. What appeared in his mind was a picture of the entire ancient city. The ancient city in his mind was also shrouded in a layer of strange fog. He couldn't see every inch of the ancient city clearly. He couldn't even see the objects and buildings in the ancient city. However, with the tablet as the center, as his primordial spirit continued to enter the tablet, traces of mysterious energy were transmitted from the tablet. It continuously dispersed the fog in the ancient city inch by inch. It's a connate spiritual root. No, it's not just a spiritual root. There's also a lake. This lake is not simple. What is growing in the lake? It's so rich in creation energy. While Sakura was refining the ancient tablet, the images in his mind were also constantly dispersing. The scene that appeared after the mist was dispersed caused him to be secretly shocked. The first thing that appeared in his mind was a towering ancient tree near the primal chaos ancient tablet. This ancient tree was so tall that it towered into the heavens, blotting out the sun and moon. On the body of the tree, every inch of its trunk, every inch of its body, was filled with vigorous runes. The lines intertwined like a lifelike river that would never stop flowing. Especially the leaves, they were even more peculiar. They were not ordinary leaves, but were like a small river gathered together to form a ring-shaped leaf. On the leaf, there were ripples of flowing water, as if there was a scene of the movement of all things in the world. It exuded a unique charm of time with an ancient aura. It was like a king that had existed since ancient times, standing in the void and looking at the boundless world. The vicissitudes of time. The body of the tree is like a Milky Way. The leaves are in a ring shape, like a stream. It contains all things in the world and has the power to turn something rotten into something magical. The sacred tree of time. This is the legendary sacred tree of time. It only exists in legends, and no expert has ever seen it with their own eyes. They always thought it was just a legend. I didn't expect it to be real. The medicine of regret. Legend has it that the sacred tree of time produces an incredible batch of medicine of regret every 100,000 years. When Dark saw the ancient tree in Sakura's mind, he couldn't help but be so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. The sacred tree of time, the medicine of regret. This was the most magical connate spiritual root in the chaos. It was definitely not inferior to the sacred tree of life and the sacred tree of world. On the sacred tree of time, there was a sacred fruit called the medicine of regret. As the saying goes, Money cannot buy the medicine of regret. It was not that there was no medicine, but that it was simply impossible to buy. It really is the sacred tree of time, the medicine of regret. Indra swept his gaze over, only to see numerous human-shaped fruits growing on the divine tree. These human-shaped fruits had different appearances, resembling actual adult males and females. Every inch of their bodies was extremely lifelike, with no flaws at all. Dense traces of the law of time could be seen on them. Once consumed, according to the effect of the medicine of regret, one could choose to rewind time and return to the chosen time point, giving one another chance to choose. However, the medicine of regret's effect was too shocking and heaven-defying. It was only useful for those below the level of an unparalleled expert. Moreover, it was so heaven-defying that it had never appeared in the world. In the end, it became a legend. There were only 365 fruits on the tree. However, what really attracted Deshurtian was not the sacred tree of time, but a lake on the side. The water in the lake was not simple. It was the chaotic water unique to the chaos. The power contained in the water was comparable to the living soil of the nine heavens. In the middle of the lake, a green lotus appeared. The green lotus emitted green lotus petals and spun continuously. As it spun, the petals disappeared one by one. It was unusually beautiful and magical. The tough roots kept absorbing nutrients from the water. A rich creation chi was emitted from the green lotus. It was full of charm. Lotus, creation. Could this be the green lotus of creation that was cleaved apart by the axe light in the primal chaos and disappeared without a trace? A thought came to Deshurtian's mind. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1237. Brothers, today is the last day of the month. Buy some tickets if you have them. Looking at the vast green lotus that seemed to be made of green crystal, the 24-grade green lotus body stood in the middle of the lake and swayed with the wind. Every inch of the lotus body contained a mighty power of creation. Billions of creation runes flickered in the green lotus and intertwined to form a divine creation formation. These were the creation runes. Every wisp of green creation aura carried a temptation that could make all living things in the universe disregard their own lives. Any wisp of it seemed to be able to create one of the most powerful beings in the universe. They could become an overlord and a hero of a generation. Every wisp of the aura that flowed out of it could bring immense pressure to all living things. This kind of pressure did not seem overbearing. Instead, it seemed vast and profound. The power within it far surpassed that of a peerless expert. Green lotus of creation. When Deshurtian saw the 24-grade green lotus, the lotus seed of the forbidden red lotus that he carried with him started to heat up intensely. It became hot and pulsated continuously. Whoosh! Without any restraints, the blood-red lotus seed that looked like a blood-red crystal on his body turned into a beam of blood-red light and shot rapidly through the air. It drew a bright, divine radiance as it charged directly toward the vast green lotus. Splash! Ripples appeared in the clear lake water. Endless green light flickered, and a green figure appeared out of thin air above the green lotus. She stood on the green lotus and reached out her snow-white hand to gently hold the blood-red lotus seed in her hand. Sister. The figure uttered these two words with a hint of excitement in his eyes. You are the green lotus of creation. I was entrusted by your sister in the red lotus to come and find you so that you and your sister can reunite and become one again. Deshurtian sent a message to the green lotus of creation in his mind. Similarly, there was a hint of caution in his voice. The green lotus of creation in front of him and the forbidden red lotus that he saw in the past both had terrifying strength comparable to that of a half-step sovereign. If there was an opportunity, it might be able to transcend beyond the mortal world and ascend to the level of a supreme sovereign. Towards such an existence, he also had a relatively equal attitude. Qinglian, thank you, your majesty, for bringing news of my sister. From this lotus seed, I already know some of my sister's situation and even the promise that my sister made to your majesty back then. Green lotus and red lotus originally came from the same root. If my little sister fuses her body with the demon court and helps the demon court perfect as her older sister, I naturally won't let my little sister do alone. However, green lotus has already taken root in the ancient city of chaos. Unless your majesty can refine the ancient city, it will be difficult for green lotus to move her body and fuse with the demon court. On the green lotus was a young girl who looked very similar to the red lotus he had seen before. However, compared to the red lotus, she was slightly bigger and had a unique charm of creation. She appeared unusually calm in her tranquility. If red lotus was a little fairy, then the one in front of him was a beautiful fairy. Time God Tree, Fortune Green Lotus, how did you enter Primal Chaos City? Desherton waited for an opportunity to ask. I don't know either. Back in the Primal Chaos, my younger sister and I were happily cultivating. We had the protection of the twin ancient cosmos formation, allowing us to cultivate freely. But for some unknown reason, an axe light suddenly split open the ancient formation. My younger sister and I couldn't stop it at all and were instantly split apart. I was affected and escaped into the distance. My consciousness fell into a coma. When I woke up, I was already in the ancient city of chaos and rooted in this lake. There was no way for me to escape. Qinglian spoke frankly and confidently, outlining what she had encountered. The ancient city of chaos seemed to possess some kind of mysterious power that could draw in large numbers of innate spiritual roots, innate spiritual treasures, and all sorts of innate divine items from the chaos. It could protect them, but at the same time, it also brought about a powerful restriction. Once they entered the ancient city of chaos, they would never be able to leave. Was it a shelter or a cage? I will refine the ancient city of chaos and take control of it. At that time, I will release the ancient city's restriction on you, and you'll be free to leave. You and your sister, I will prepare a body for you, so that even if you leave your original body, you won't be harmed at all. You will have a chance to advance to a more mysterious realm. If you and your sister can enter the demon court, I will share the same fate with you. Desherton gave the green lotus a promise without hesitation. The forbidden red lotus and the green lotus of good fortune had already developed their own intelligence and divine souls. They only lacked a physical form. However, at this moment, they had to integrate their original bodies into the Ling Shao demon court. He had to give them an explanation. Just like the four directions heaven gate, he would give them a new body. Thank you, your majesty. Fairy Green Lotus nodded slightly. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time that Sakura confirmed the identity of the Green Lotus of good fortune, he let go of an obsession in his heart and once again began to refine the Primal Chaos ancient tablet at an astonishing speed. With every bit he refined, his primordial spirit fused with the tablet. His control of the ancient city of chaos grew, and the fog that shrouded the city began to disperse. Inch by inch, the area appeared in his mind. However, every time he dispelled a piece of fog, the things he saw similarly made Sakura extremely shocked in his heart. Longevity, Immortal Peach Tree, 7-star Fortune Lantern, Taiji Mystic Jade. As the fog dispersed, Desherton could clearly sense that there were countless mysterious spaces in the ancient city of chaos, separated from each other. In each space, in each area, there were marvelous natural spiritual treasures and natural spiritual roots. Each of them contained inconceivable power. They were objects that many peerless powerhouses sought after. However, at this moment, all of these spiritual treasures had gathered here and taken root. It was like a gathering. There were so many of them, so high in quality that even a primeval paragon would gape in awe. Treasures. TSK. This is one of the largest and most inconceivable treasures in the chaos. The ancient city of chaos is truly extraordinary. Not only can it record the entire history of the chaos, but can also contain many natural spiritual treasures and natural spiritual roots and protect them. Since the birth of the chaos, who knows how many treasures have been drawn to it? Dark's eyes shone with golden light as he yelled excitedly. If we can completely control the ancient city of chaos, all the natural spirit treasures and even natural spirit roots in the city will belong to us. They will become the greatest foundation of the Ling Shao demon court and will greatly enhance our battle prowess against the monster race. If we can integrate some natural spirit treasures into the Ling Shao demon court, we may be able to solidify a large number of pillars of Tao in the city and elevate them to the peak. This was a windfall that had fallen into his lap. This windfall was far greater than what he had plundered in the Godfall Abyss. It was 100 times, 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times more valuable. Whoever obtains the City of Chaos will obtain the world. Tian recalled a rumor he'd heard in the past. This thought flashed past his mind, yet it didn't affect the refinement of the ancient tablet. The blazing violet gold emperor flames continued to incinerate the ancient tablet, causing the originally chaotic ancient tablet to gradually be dyed with traces of a violet gold color. Within the ancient tablet, traces of Tian's aura and will gushed forth. The carefree archipelago has disappeared, and His Majesty has entered the City of Chaos. It seems that His Majesty has been recognized by the city and is refining the ancient city. Tian Yunzi stroked his white beard and nodded slightly, looking at the vast ancient city standing in the sea of chaos with a strange light in his eyes. Humph! When His Majesty refines the ancient city and merges it with the demon court, it will definitely improve. Then His Majesty will be able to use this power to ascend to the sovereign realm in one fell swoop. At that time, how can a mere paragon of judgment be His Majesty's match? Sooner or later, His Majesty will kill him. Tian Yunzi's eyes shone with a resolute light. She was unusually confident. I wonder when husband will ascend to the sovereign realm. What's so special about husband's body that it can suppress his ascension like this? A look of surprise and curiosity flashed across Mei Xian's face. Although the carefree archipelago had disappeared, the Dead Sea of Chaos was still one of the most terrifying, forbidden areas in the world of chaos. It was still full of all kinds of terrifying dangers. Seeing that Tian was refining the City of Chaos, the cultivators in the demon court seized every moment to cultivate. They all keenly felt an invisible pressure pervading the chaos. It was like the aura before storm. With the help of the various spirit veins and powerful resources in the demon court, they all reaped great benefits. There were monsters undergoing tribulations and breaking through at every moment. Even in the demon court, Tian didn't change the rule that monsters had to undergo tribulations every time they broke through. Every time they broke through, all monsters had to undergo tribulations. Those who passed would ascend to the next realm, while those who failed would either die or be injured. Without tribulations, monsters would die of ease in the long run. Tribulations were fortunes. Time flowed forward like flowing water. In the blink of an eye, there were only 3 years left until the 10-year life or death battle that was agreed upon. In the Sovereign God domain, in a wisdom temple, the goddess of wisdom, who had been sitting on a lotus platform all this time, gently opened her slightly closed eyes. A light of wisdom flashed through her eyes. There was a hint of profound charm in her eyes. She looked up at the void and muttered to herself, 7 years have passed. There are only 3 years left. Trial, trial. Did you know that I had already divined that if you participated in the life or death battle, it would be a great omen and you would most likely die. However, your death may give me an unprecedented opportunity to recover. Don't worry, if you die, I will make the Monster Emperor accompany you in death. I won't let you down. There was a hint of strangeness in her voice and a hint of incomprehensible charm. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1238. In the new month, I'm asking for a guaranteed monthly ticket for my brothers. Let's do this." It was as if the goddess of wisdom had foreseen how dangerous the paragon of judgment was, and that his fate was extremely difficult to change. In fact, she didn't seem to have any intention of helping him reverse his fate at all. More importantly, he had a feeling that she was secretly plotting something inconceivable at this moment. This matter might even be related to the paragon of judgment's life and death. The 9 primeval paragons seemed to be on the same side, but that didn't mean that there wasn't a single trace of discord between them. If it was for their own sake, it wouldn't be surprising if they were scheming against each other. The goddess of wisdom gazed deeply into the void, into the primal chaos, making it difficult for others to understand her intentions. At this moment, in another temple, there was a solemn, cold, and oppressive pressure everywhere. Strands of the wheel of judgment formed a net of law that covered every inch of space in the temple. The paragon of judgment was seated at the head of the temple. Similarly, the goddess of darkness and the god king of light were seated within. The 3 paragons opened their eyes at the same time. "Judgment, there are only 3 years left. Are you confident?" The god king of light looked at the paragon of judgment. "Oomph. I've already returned to my peak condition, and I can kill anything at any time. I admit that the Yao Emperor's performance in the Sky-Split Tower was truly world-shaking, far surpassing that of a half-step ruler. However, I'm already a late-stage primeval paragon, and I've already taken out several supreme treasures. My strength is definitely at its peak. As long as the Yao Emperor hasn't become a ruler, he'll definitely die. No matter how strong an ant is, it's still an ant. I'll let him know that an ant wanting to defy the heavens is nothing more than wishful thinking." The paragon of judgment's face was filled with boundless dignity. There was no savagery on his face. Instead, he appeared very calm, as if he had adjusted his state of mind to its peak. There was neither joy nor sorrow as he made his final preparations for the battle to the death. "Judgment, there's no need to worry. We 9 primeval paragons have roamed the primal chaos for countless years. How could we possibly fear the Yao Emperor, a newly risen emperor? I refuse to believe that he'll be able to do anything in 10 short years. How could the path from half-step sovereign to sovereign be so easily traversed? Not to mention that if something unexpected really happens, then we'll naturally utilize our strongest trump card. At that time, no matter how powerful the demon emperor is, he will still die in our hands." A hint of ridicule appeared at the corner of the dark goddess' mouth. "However, we still have to be careful. Although the 9 great supremes are united, the 3 of us are closer to each other. The others also have their own groups, so we have to be careful in everything we do. Now that we've revealed our trump card, it's hard to guarantee that the others won't have any thoughts about it. We have no choice but to be on guard." The radiant God King's eyes flickered with shrewdness as he said slowly, "That's right. However, if we can occupy the demon court, it will be more precious than any treasure. If we can obtain it, even if we form our own faction, no one will be able to do anything to us. Even the great chaos calamity won't affect us." The dark goddess nodded meaningfully, her voice carrying a trace of coldness. In the fiend celestial continent, the 9 supreme divine wills quickly clashed with each other in the void. The promise of 10 years is coming soon. It's also time for us to head to the chaos calamity. This time, we'll act according to the circumstances and act according to the plan we've planned, the fateless demon ancestor said in a deep voice. That lowly servant, Meishin, actually dared to go against my will. This is the time of her death. I'll let her know what the consequences of betraying me are. The heart-devouring demon Ancestor muttered to himself viciously. The other demon ancestors also had their own plans. After a discussion with their divine wills, they immediately saw a vast demon palace appear out of thin air. It carried an oppressive force that caused the void to distort. With a slight tremble, it directly broke through the void and entered the chaos calamity. The purple gold continent. As the countless cultivators from the various worlds migrated back to the purple gold continent, they were scattered in the various worlds around the continent. Some were ordinary life forms, while most of the cultivators had left. Even the celestial realm seemed to be showing signs of migration recently. This made the various worlds seem a little bleak. At this moment, in the demon realm, the vast world was still emitting pure demon chi. The essence chi of heaven and earth seemed to be quite abundant. Among the essence chi, there was also an extremely dense demon chi. However, the entire demon realm seemed to be in an incredible seal. There was a spatial barrier, and it was impossible to pass through. This caused this world to become a sealed land. In the demon battlefield under the demon realm, there was no trace of any demon race. On the contrary, groups of demon gods of all shapes and sizes were roaming around. Dense demon chi permeated every inch of the void. Countless demonic beasts were running around wantonly, slaughtering each other, displaying the strong aggressiveness of the demon gods. Densely packed demon beasts and demon gods were distributed in every inch of the demon battlefield. A murderous aura filled the air. Back then, after Di brought all the demon race in the demon realm and left the demon realm in one go, the demon gods entered the demon realm. With the opening of the tunnel, the demon gods once again entered in batches. In the end, the place was filled with demon gods and demonic beasts. This place was like a miniature demon god continent. Endless demon chi was seeping into the demon realm. This place seemed to be a stepping stone for the demon gods to attack the purple gold continent. This was a strategic location. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just at this moment, the entire demon battlefield trembled intensely. It was like an earthquake. What's going on? The blood on the ground is quickly disappearing. Something is sucking the blood away. Strange. Why did the bones on the battlefield suddenly turn into powder? Why is the flesh and blood mysteriously disappearing? Underground, there must be something doing underground. Various strange phenomena appeared in the demon battlefield. First, the red-stained soil started to drain blood at a visible rate. Then, the blood mysteriously disappeared, restoring the color of the ground. After that, the flesh and blood continuously disintegrated. A boundless dangerous aura came from underground. However, before the demon gods had a chance to react, the ground suddenly flipped over and a vast ancient diagram emerged out of nowhere. Countless demon gods, god fiends, and all living beings appeared on the ancient diagram. The praises of the god fiends came from the diagram. Strands of Tao patterns formed countless mysterious killing formations. They formed the array diagram. Boom, boom, boom. The ancient diagram rolled and retracted, sucking in all the demon gods and demonic beasts in the entire demon battlefield, and even the entire demon realm. With a gentle shake, all the demon gods turned into powder. An overwhelming mighty force spread out from the ancient diagram. A deep sigh could be heard from the ancient map. Amid the sigh, the ancient diagram passed through the demon realm and disappeared in the blink of an eye. To the ancient diagram, the seal on the demon realm did not seem to exist at all. It left easily. Rumble. As the ancient diagram left, the demon realm, which had just regained its vitality, immediately rumbled intensely. Earthquakes, volcanoes, abysses, cracks, and other phenomena appeared one after another, collapsing continuously. The void was collapsing, and the flowers, grass, and trees withered rapidly. Their vitality was mysteriously taken away. From the edge of the demon realm, one could see the void collapsing inch by inch. In the blink of an eye, the entire demon realm collapsed, turning into nothingness, shattering into nothingness. In the dead sea of chaos, primal chaos, ancient tablet, dispel the fog, control the chaos. I am the sovereign. For a few years, under the unceasing tempering of the Empyrean flames, the gigantic stone monument was now completely covered in a violet gold glow. On the stone monument, the image of Sakura could be seen floating in the air. A feeling of complete control of the ancient primal chaos city appeared clearly in his mind. In every inch of the void in the ancient city, he was the supreme ruler. Rumble. The moment the tablet was refined, the tablet shuddered and suddenly rose from the ground. It turned into a purplish-golden sun that shone with billions of strands of purplish-golden light. It shone in all directions. Every strand of light contained a supreme will. Wherever it went, the mist that enveloped the ancient city would disperse at a visible rate like snowflakes in summer. In an instant, the innate spiritual treasures and spiritual roots in the ancient city appeared one after another. Di Shirtan, dressed in a black imperial robe, stood proudly in the void. He pointed at the ancient city and scolded. The ancient city and the demon court merge into one and establish a supreme foundation. Rumble. The primal chaos city shone with primal chaos divine light. On the city walls of the ancient city, pages of epic history flickered with divine light. The scenes on the pages were vivid and lifelike. The entire ancient city gave off an ancient and boundless feeling. Endless power was present in the ancient city. Vaguely, a giant seemed to be awakening. The demon court was also extraordinary. The 4 heavenly gates burst out with 9-colored divine light, and millions of colorful threads hung down. Countless fairies danced around the demon court. 3,000 great daos condensed into pillars of heaven, supporting the operation of heaven and earth, and a fine net of law shrouded the void. It was faintly discernible among the auspicious clouds. It exuded a majestic aura, the aura of immortality. The 2 ancient cities shook at the same time. A strange phenomenon occurred. Immediately, countless monsters and cultivators in the demon court were awakened from their cultivation. Looking at the 2 ancient cities bursting with divine light, they seemed to understand what was going on in front of them and showed a look of anticipation and excitement. Yes, it's His Majesty. His Majesty has finally taken control of the ancient city. It seems that he intends to merge the ancient city with the demon court and help it advance again. The aura emanating from the ancient city is even more ancient than our demon court. It seems to be more powerful, and it's at least an immortal artifact. I wonder what kind of changes will occur when 2 immortal artifacts merge. If it can directly break through to an immemorial artifact, that will be a supreme opportunity. Countless monsters discussed with an incomparably optimistic attitude. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1240. Today's 3rd update has been delivered. Brothers, if you have a guaranteed monthly vote, please help me give it to Wan Yao. Monthly votes are in short supply. If the ancient chaotic city and the Lingxiao demon court merged, the future would be even brighter. Di Shirtan controlled the ancient chaotic city and the Lingxiao demon court. If they merged, it wouldn't be too surprising. Even myriad tribulation ancestor, lightning ancestor, and ghost king, who were half-step sovereigns, were looking forward to it, not to mention the demons and cultivators in the demon court. Myriad tribulation ancestor side. I was born from the first tribulation Shi in the world. I have a strong foundation, and I broke through to become an unparalleled expert. My battle strength allowed me to roam the ancient times. Wherever I went, cultivators would be defeated, and my cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. I once made a name for myself, and I killed countless demon gods in the ancient times. Now that I've returned from the tribulation, I've become a half-step sovereign. My life can be described as a grand epic, but my life can't compare to the short time I spent with the demon court. I witnessed the demon court become immortal. The demon emperor kill Zetian. The demon court become immortal. The 10-year leap, the dead chaotic sea, the carefree islands, and carefree scholar. Now, I'm lucky enough to witness the fusion of the ancient chaos city and the demon court. The shifter emperor is indeed the most unpredictable variable in the primal chaos. A miracle. He sighed. He had an indescribable feeling for Di Shirtan. Myriad tribulation. I'm lucky enough to witness the rise of such a prodigy. I'll be happy for the rest of my life. Lightning Ancestor laughed loudly. This ancient chaos city is definitely not inferior to the demon court. It might even surpass it. It's a superior grade immortal artifact, or even a peak immortal artifact. I wonder how many great path pillars there are inside. The Ghost King said in a deep voice as he looked solemnly at the boundless ancient city of chaos that exuded traces of time. Boom, boom, boom. The ancient chaos city and the demon court quickly approached each other under D. Shurtian's control. As they got closer, the two immortal artifacts influenced each other, and great path pillars appeared at the same time. The 3,000 great paths in the demon court didn't fall, and some of them had even materialized. Primal chaos. However, in the ancient city of chaos, cries that truly belonged to the primal chaos were heard. Great Daos rose into the sky one after another. 1, 2. Hiss. There are also 3,000 of them. Some cultivators were counting the number of great Tao heavenly pillars that appeared one after another in the ancient city of chaos. When they saw them clearly, they could not help but gasp. The city of primal chaos truly lives up to its reputation of being mysterious. It actually has 3,000 heavenly pillars of the Great Tao. Their Great Tao is complete and flawless. The heavenly pillars are actually all solid and have reached the realm of great perfection. It was the pinnacle of the Great Tao laws. This was a peak immortal rank God city. It's even more tyrannical than the demon court. It's even more unbelievable. Even if Mei Xian possessed a shocking disposition, she still couldn't help but exclaim with shock when she witnessed all of this. Her eyes emanated indescribable divine radiance as she glanced at the ancient city of chaos that was distributed throughout the city in a strange manner and supported the heavens and the earth. This was a peak immortal grade supreme artifact. It was even more powerful than the demon court. Rumble. As the two ancient cities rapidly approached each other, the surrounding Dead Sea of chaos immediately began to churn with surging waves. Like a tsunami, they constantly surged into the sky around the two ancient cities. Endless power of chaos swept towards the two ancient cities, as if the chaotic world instinctively did not want to see the two god artifacts successfully fuse. It wanted to destroy them. However, as soon as the primal chaos tide appeared 10,000 feet away from the two ancient cities, it was forcefully restrained and could not approach them at all. Finally, the two ancient cities truly collided. Bang, 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 crack. The moment they collided, the primal chaos ancient city and the demon court collided violently like water and fire. The 3,000 great Tao in the primal chaos city and the 3,000 great Tao in the demon court were like enemies meeting. As soon as they collided, they immediately clashed violently. Billions of rays of light enveloped the two ancient cities. On the spot, terrifying cracks appeared on the pillars of the great Tao in the demon court. When the pillars that had yet to condense into a physical form collided with the pillars of the great perfection realm, they were severely injured on the spot. Cracks appeared on the pillars, and some of the pillars were faintly tilting. The heavens and the earth in the demon court shook violently, as if the heavens and the earth were about to collapse. In the void, there were faint stars that were falling. The heavens were collapsing. At this moment, all the cultivators in the demon court felt as if the heavens were about to collapse. They felt as powerless as ants, and a strong sense of fear surged wildly. Not good. The primal chaos city and the demon court are both independent worlds. The great Tao in the primal chaos city is self-contained. Now that they have merged, it's as if the two worlds are colliding. The two worlds are devouring and conquering each other. It's possible that they will be destroyed directly. Mei Xian's expression changed drastically, and she could not help but exclaim, "Lunatic D, stop quickly. I'm afraid that before the fusion succeeds, the two ancient cities will be completely destroyed during the fusion process." Ming was so scared that his face turned blood red. Before the fusion, he only thought that the two divine artifacts were controlled by Di Shurtian and recognized him as their master. He did not expect that the laws of the two worlds would be incompatible with each other, resulting in such a terrifying and destructive scene. Split. What they thought of, Sakura naturally understood on the spot when the unforeseen event occurred. Without even thinking, his mind moved, and he was about to divide the two ancient cities again. Boom, boom, boom. But at this moment, the two ancient cities were like two extremes. They attracted each other and crushed each other. They were entangled with each other as if they were going to fight to the death to determine a winner. For a moment, Sakura was actually unable to split them apart. The great Tao collided and crushed violently. In the demon court, fine cracks appeared on the pillars at a speed visible to the naked eye. A thick aura of death enveloped the entire demon court. Despair and fear flashed in the eyes of countless demons. No matter how ferocious the savage beasts are, we demons will not yield. Our ancestors opened up the world with their blood. No matter how tyrannical the 100 races are, we demons will not be discouraged. We will roam the world with our undying fighting spirit. No matter how rampant the fiend gods are, we demons will not be afraid. We will build an unbreakable barrier with our flesh and blood. No matter how the human race turns against us, we demons will not be destroyed. Our proud demonic souls have existed since ancient times, and our inheritance will never be destroyed. No matter how our race declines, we demons will not be defeated. We will break fate and rise proudly. No matter how we die, our demonic souls will not be destroyed. Our blood will not be extinguished. Our will not be defeated. The demons will not be destroyed. We demons will not be destroyed. The prayers that had existed since ancient times and crossed the boundaries of time and space, with the undying demonic souls and unyielding will of the demons that have been passed down since ancient times, wrote the short but glorious history of the demons. Streams of blazing faith turned into an incredible power that shot up into the sky from the bodies of every demon. They gathered together and formed a white light that filled the sky. In the light, it was as if the endless martyrs of the demon race had really heard the call and had traveled across time and space from ancient times. Illusory fighting souls appeared one after another. This was the power of faith. This was the power of faith. Faith in their own race. Faith. The boundless power of faith filled every inch of space in the demon court, forcibly stabilizing the collapsing space with an unbelievable method. The broken pillars of heaven gathered together and recovered. They resisted the terrible impact from the ancient chaotic city. It can't be divided. Deshertion took a deep breath. His calm face did not reveal any trace of panic. At this moment, he was the stabilizing force in the hearts of all the demons. No matter what, he could not retreat or be afraid. As long as he did not fall, the faith in the hearts of all the demons would not be extinguished. So what if it can't be divided? Since you have recognized me as your master, you must obey my orders. If you don't, what use do I have for you? The demon court is my foundation. Ancient chaotic city, suppress it. Deshertion stood in the dead sea of chaos. Outside his body, monstrous tides of chaos rose into the sky and rolled up a tsunami hundreds of millions of feet high. However, this monstrous tsunami did not wait for it to come close. It was immediately cut into pieces by the wildly dancing black hair behind his head. A single strand of hair could collapse the chaotic chi. Outside the Black Emperor's robe, 9 dragons, 9 tigers, 9 vermilion birds, 9 black tortoises, and 9 Sheelants all flew around, setting off the endless Emperor's aura and exuding a supreme Emperor's aura. Ancient tablets of the divine tomb suppressed the chaos. The Emperor blood in Deshertion's body boiled. The purple gold Emperor blood with a blazing aura rushed into the tombstones in his body and quickly washed over them. Rumble. Under the cleansing of the Emperor blood, the 4 tombstones in his body immediately awakened. The battle tablet, law tablet, strength tablet, and soldier tablet all shook. Among them, the law tablet and soldier tablet flew out of the Emperor's body at the same time. They suddenly became abnormally vast and appeared above the ancient chaotic city. All of a sudden, they emitted an ancient and boundless aura with the power to overturn the sky and suppress it in one fell swoop. The two tombstones were extremely strange. Each of them had the power to suppress the ancient times. As soon as they landed in the ancient city that was constantly colliding with the demon court was imprisoned and kept separating. However, the ancient city still burst out with an astonishing power of heaven and earth, resisting the suppression of the tombstones. It shook violently. Rumble. Tion snorted coldly. The battle tablet and the strength tablet in his body flew out. The four tombstones suppressed the four directions and landed in the ancient city in one fell swoop. When the tombstones landed in a direction, the power of heaven and earth in that area seemed to be fixed and imprisoned. It was difficult to move. It was completely suppressed. Shrink! Tion shouted at the ancient city. The primal chaos city immediately shrank like an aggrieved puppy. In the blink of an eye, it became only the size of 100,000 feet. Demon Court devour the chaos. The Jade Archive of the Emperor absorbed the power of the Great Tao and strengthened the soaring sky. The Demon Court rose into the air, and a black hole appeared, directly sucking in the ancient chaotic city that was suppressed by the four tombstones into the core space. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1241. I'm running out of monthly tickets. Brothers with tickets, please support me. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's voice carried a hint of complacency and arrogance as he looked at the void and sneered. He had absolute confidence in his ability to escape. With the undying heavenly coffin, anyone who wanted to trace his tracks would only be a fool's dream. It had always been a doppelganger that walked outside, and there was no trace of his primordial spirit left inside. Even if he self-destructed, it would not cause any damage to him. It was unlike the time in ancient times when he wanted to seize a chance when the great calamity arrived and sent half of his primordial spirit into his doppelganger, which was why he was severely injured by the monkey. He had to recuperate for countless years. Without a primordial spirit, he could self-destruct at any time. Once he self-destructed, not only would it cause fatal damage to the enemy, but it would also erase all traces and cut off all karma. No one would be able to deduce the location of his main body from the doppelganger. Even the Sovereign Lord would have a hard time finding his location. That was why he was so confident and why he was so confident. Oomph. Monster Emperor, oh Monster Emperor, I've seen through your scheme this time, but I'm still better than you. Although I've lost the doppelganger, I've seen through your scheme. Now that I've destroyed my doppelganger and cut off all clues, I'll see how you'll track me down. I've lost a doppelganger in exchange for winning the bet. Come to think of it, I've already profited. As long as I don't go out, I'll see how you can win against me. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's lips curled into a smug smile. In terms of life-saving ability, if he claimed to be second in the world, no one would dare to claim to be first. He was sure that he had erased everything and would not leave any trace. As long as he stayed on this island until the end of the bet, he would naturally win. In his opinion, the treasures that the Monster Emperor had taken away were already waving at him and returning to his embrace. Is that so? Ku Rong, do you really think you won against me? I'd like to see you bite your own leg and swallow it. Just as Ku Rong could not help but want to laugh out loud to vent his pride, a voice that he did not expect to hear suddenly appeared in the sky above the isolated island without any warning. It was clear and steady as it echoed in his ears. It was like a sharp knife that directly pierced into his heart. The originally excited expression on his face suddenly became abnormally stiff. It was as if time had stopped at this moment. It seemed that he had already fallen. His entire body became extremely stiff. However, in the blink of an eye, his entire body jumped out of the undying heavenly coffin. He looked up at the void and saw a majestic figure standing there. A few words seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps of his teeth. Demon Emperor. Ku Rong. The one in the void was none other than Di Shirtian's clone. He stood in the void with his black hair fluttering in the wind. He stared at perfected Lord Ku Rong in a dignified manner and said, "Are you surprised to see me?" There was a strange charm in his voice. "How is that possible? I've clearly erased all traces and cut off everything. It's impossible for you to track me down. I don't believe it. I don't believe you can find me." Green veins popped out on perfected Lord Ku Rong's arms. His expression was ferocious and filled with disbelief as he roared furiously. Disbelief was written all over his face. However, no matter how much he did not want to believe it, he could clearly feel that the person in front of him was indeed the Demon Emperor from his aura. It was indeed Di Shirtian. "Let me understand why I've lost." Ku Rong's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Di Shirtian with bloodshot eyes. His voice became unusually hoarse. He questioned persistently. He could not understand how the Demon Emperor found him. He would not die in peace if he did not know the reason. A wisp of a faintly discernible smile appeared in Sakra's eyes when he heard this. He looked meaningfully at Ku Rong and said, "Ku Rong, do you still remember the scene when we met for the first time?" He did not seem to be worried that Ku Rong would find out about his tracking technique. "The first time we met?" A strange look appeared in perfected Lord Ku Rong's eyes. When they met for the first time, they were not on friendly terms. Instead, he wanted to plunder Chun, Shi's divine origin. In the end, they fought fiercely. Later on, he was even harmed by the heavenly tribulation that Di Shirtian attracted. However, he also gave him 100 Desires demonic pearl. When he thought of the 100 Desires demonic pearl, a flash of inspiration suddenly appeared in his mind. He said in surprise, "Desire." Back then, when you were transcending the tribulation, you were creating the 7 emotions and 6 desires demonic vein. Desire, desire. Could it be that you tracked me through desire? For him to be able to live until now. How could he be a fool? Just by mentioning a single primer, he immediately thought of many things. He had already erased some of the traces he had left behind, so that even a ruler wouldn't be able to track him down. Yet, Sakra had managed to find him here. Clearly, the method he had used wasn't an ordinary one, but an extraordinary one. Desire. He thought of desire. He knew the Shifter Emperor very well and had specially studied him. He was no stranger to the Shifter Emperor's cultivation method, the Emperor's Path. It was a supreme cultivation method of the path of desire. He knew the dangers of the power of desire very well. He could also imagine how terrifying the Shifter Emperor, who could cultivate the power of desire until now and had not succumbed to it, was. "You're not stupid." When Di Shirtian saw that Ku Rong had reacted, he smiled faintly and said, "I cultivate the power of desire and control desires. The 7 emotions and 6 desires are all under my control. As long as I want, no emotional fluctuation can escape from my senses. Unless it's an existence that has abandoned lust, as long as a trace of desire is revealed, it's impossible to escape from my tracking." Pausing for a moment, he glanced at him with a faint smile and continued, "With your suspicious heart, this emperor has already begun to set up a trap since the beginning of the bet with you. If I were to look for you with great fanfare, you would instead hide in your shell and wait until the end of the bet. But if I don't do anything with your suspicious heart, you will inevitably let your imagination run wild and your suspicions run wild. Eventually, you will reveal your traces. The moment I saw you in the Southern Barbarian, the outcome was already decided. Anger, jealousy, fear, shock, and all kinds of emotions have already exposed your tracks. You can erase all visible traces, but you can't erase the invisible desires. Desires are connected, so it's easy to find you." Sentence by sentence, he clearly exposed all the plans. The plans had been in place since the beginning of the bet and were unfolding. He had almost calculated Ku Rong to the core. It sounded simple, but if he did not expose it, how could the hidden scheme be simple? The power of desire. All living things in the world, as long as they had spiritual intelligence, could not abandon the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Having no desires or desires was just a relative level. The desires of all living things gathered together invisibly. In fact, the desires that were emitted were still connected to the original body. It cannot be cut off, and it was messy. Using the 7 emotions and 6 desires to track someone seemed simple, but apart from Di no other powerhouse in the world could spy on it. Back then, the purpose of luring Ku Rong's clone was not to kill him, but to obtain the information of his own desires. The body could be different, but the desires would not lie. I see. The moment Ku Rong understood, the expression on his face became very complicated. One moment it was white, and the next moment it was green. It was as if he had opened a dying shop. The drastic changes seemed to be an intense psychological struggle. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and said, "Demon Emperor, I've lost. You found the hiding place of my real body. I know that with my current cultivation, I'm definitely no match for you. You can kill me or torture me as you wish. It's still the same as before. If I lose, I'll return all the treasures I took from you back then. If you lose, you'll join the demon court as a subject. Since you've admitted defeat, I wonder if your promise still counts." Di asked in a deep voice. This was obviously forcing him to abdicate. Ku Rong's expression changed, and thoughts quickly ran through his mind. He thought to himself, "Today my real body has been completely exposed. My immortal body is probably no longer a threat to the Demon Emperor. With my cultivation that has not completely recovered, I can't fight this beast at all. My life is in his hands. If I don't agree, he'll definitely trample me to death." Thinking about how I haven't recovered from my injuries after so many years, it's also one of the reasons. The Demon Emperor's journey can be said to be an unprecedented miracle in the world. If I join the Demon Court, it might be a bright path. Maybe I can use this to recover my cultivation. I'll gain endless benefits from the Great Tribulation. Thoughts flashed through his mind, but on the surface, he only pondered for a moment and nodded slowly. "I'm willing to accept defeat. I'm willing to submit to your majesty and join the Demon Court as a subject. Ku Rong pays his respects to your majesty." Once he made his choice, he decisively knelt on one knee and bowed to Di Shurtian respectfully. "Good. Since you've joined the Demon Court, you're not an outsider. If I'm not wrong, your origin should be related to the legendary Eternal Heaven Realm." When Di Shurtian heard his submission, he could not help but nod to himself. "Your majesty is wise. I'm indeed from the Eternal Heaven Realm." When True Lord Ku Rong heard this, he took a deep breath and confirmed with a peculiar charm. "Since you're from the Eternal Heaven Realm, how did you end up in this chaotic world?" A look of understanding flashed across Di Shurtian's mind. Since his initial guess had been confirmed, he did not hesitate to ask for information about the Eternal Heaven Realm. "Reporting to your majesty, this subject was heavily injured and forced to enter this world." Ku Rong seemed to have a lot of anger in his heart about what happened back then. As soon as he heard the question, he started to complain about his hardships. Slowly, he revealed some things as well. It turned out that Ku Rong was quite famous in the Eternal Heaven Realm. He had the title of the Immortal Heavenly Lord. At his peak, his cultivation level had reached the half-step sovereign level. He was only half a step away from the sovereign level. However, he had an instinct that it was difficult to kill him. Even if he was beaten to a pulp, he could still recover. Even the sovereigns could not completely destroy him. Because of this, his life in the eternal celestial realm was quite comfortable. However, he was embroiled in a strange war. It seemed that because of some inconceivable and mysterious supreme treasure, many supreme beings took action to fight for it. In the end, it turned into a terrifying, chaotic battle. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for me at Chidian. Come, your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 1242. If you have a monthly ticket, please give me 2 monthly tickets to support the demons. Ku Rong's expression changed when he recalled the chaotic battle. His eyes revealed a look of fear, as though he was shocked by the scene back then. He still hadn't gotten rid of the shadow from back then. Moreover, the range of the chaotic battle was simply too vast. Even he had been swept into it. Although he had unimaginable life-saving methods, even sovereigns had fallen in such a battle. A half-step sovereign like him, even with his undying divine ability, had been severely injured. Even his body had been affected. In the end, although he had managed to keep his life, he had been forcefully thrown into this chaotic world. Even after a long time, his injuries still hadn't healed. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the eternal overlord that he was now. He would have long been a peerless expert or even a half-step sovereign. There was indeed a great battle in the eternal heaven domain. What was the outcome of the battle? Deshirtian's eyes flashed. He seemed to have grasped something from Ku Rome's words. Back then, my cultivation base was way too weak. Compared to the other experts, I was just a slightly bigger ant. I don't even know who it was that sent me flying out of the eternal heaven world. How would I know what the final outcome of the battle was? Furthermore, I was severely injured back then and had to leave the battlefield. The chaotic battle had just reached its climax. Ku Rome was a typical example of someone who didn't know the outcome until the beginning. Actually, Deshirtian had already expected this, but he was just asking with a just-in-case attitude. He wasn't too disappointed. He continued to ask, "Then, do you know what kind of supreme treasure was fought over by countless powerful magics in the ancient heaven world? How could a key item that could trigger such a terrifying war be a simple existence?" Even though he had strong self-control, he still couldn't help but ask. However, he guessed that Ku Rome might not have been able to come into contact with such a level of existence with his strength back then. As expected, an awkward look appeared on Ku Rome's face. He shook his head and said, "Your Majesty, I only heard that it was a supreme treasure that was nurtured in the primordial world. Legend has it that even the eternal supreme God would have unimaginable benefits if he obtained it. It was an incredible supreme treasure." This news made the eternal heaven domain go crazy. Blood flowed like a river. But as for what kind of treasure was in the end, I still haven't figured it out. This matter was also an eternal pain in his heart. After carefully questioning Ku Rome, Deshirtian stood in the void with a contemplative look on his face. He thought to himself, now it seems that although Ku Rome was born in the ancient heaven realm, he also knows little about the ancient heaven realm. There were many things that he could not rely on him to understand. But now, what was certain was that a terrifying change had indeed occurred in the ancient heaven world. A world-shaking war had broken out, and the source of that war was that mysterious supreme treasure that had suddenly appeared. But what the treasure is, and what the outcome of the battle was, is still a mystery to me. If Carefree Scholar was willing to tell them, these mysteries could be easily solved. However, since Carefree Scholar didn't say it, Deshirtian didn't dare to ask him. Apparently, there was a huge secret hidden within. It was because of all these that he couldn't uncover the truth of the ancient heaven realm. It was as if there was a layer of fog that couldn't be removed in his mind. Your original body is this undying heavenly coffin. Sakura took a deep breath and raised his eyes to look at the pitch-black heavenly coffin on the sacrificial altar. He could feel the same aura as Ku Rome from the heavenly coffin. The heavenly coffin gave off a kind of profound charm, but faintly revealed the charm of having its origin damaged. The heavenly coffin was constantly absorbing the rich death aura on the island, as if it had a life of its own. Yes, True Lord Ku Rome nodded without hiding anything. This point couldn't be hidden anymore, and there was no need to hide it in front of Deshirtian. He answered straightforwardly. There are cracks on the coffin, and it's almost broken. It seems that you've really suffered a huge injury. Deshirtian's eyes were so sharp that he could see that under the cover of the Black Death aura, there were countless fine cracks on every inch of the coffin. It was like a broken ceramic, and it was extremely shocking. It seemed like it could shatter at any time. What you need is not only the power of death. If I'm not wrong, you'll need the purest power of life if you want to fully recover from your injuries. You need a huge amount of life to make up for your injuries. Life and death, yin and yang. You should go to the life-forbidden zone where the divine tree of life is. Deshirtian said, Your Majesty is wise. There are enough source of life in the life forbidden zone, and it'll be of great help to my recovery. However, with my cultivation, I can't go deep into the forbidden zone. That's why I haven't fully recovered. True Lord Ku Rong said bitterly. The injuries he had suffered were so terrifying that he couldn't even enter the forbidden zone. It's fine. You can stay on the purple gold mainland for now. When I return and fight the demon god continent, I'll help you recover. Even the divine tree of life has to enter the demon court. It belongs to the demon race. Sakura slowly spat out a sentence with an incomparably confident tone. His Majesty is really in the chaos right now. Ku Rong thought quickly and finally confirmed that Di Shirtian was indeed in the chaos. Ku Rong, when you recover, you'll have a seat in the demon court. Sakura left behind a sentence, and his entire body disappeared from the island without a trace, as if he had never appeared before. Clang! Clang! At this moment, in the Linglong Pagoda in the demon court, at the highest level, ancient bell chimes filled with the will of reincarnation rang out continuously. In the void, the crystal-like celestial samsara bell was suspended above a ball of purple-gold imperial flames, bobbing up and down continuously. Innate spiritual items and divine items melted in the imperial flame and merged into the ancient bell. Mysterious Tao runes appeared continuously, densely distributed on the entire bell, outlining mysterious runes. It was as if each of the runes had a life of its own. They were constantly squirming, forming a mysterious array formation. Scrolls of paintings flickered on the ancient bell. There were giants running wildly, demons dancing wildly, fire crows streaking across the sky, and gourd vines piercing through the sun and moon. In particular, the gourd painting had 5 exquisite gourds hanging from the 7-colored vine. One was blood red, one was emerald, one was black, one was purple gold, and one was turquoise. They were all different and exuded different charms. They were the Demon Slayer gourd, the Wine God gourd, and the Calamity gourd. The purple gold one was the purple gold gourd and had the miraculous effect of nourishing pills. The turquoise one was the myriad poisons gourd. It contained endless poisonous gas in the world and could absorb any kind of poison. The more types of poisons it absorbed, the more terrifying the power of the gourd would be. These two were connate gourds that had grown on their own in the past. Under Di Shirtian's generous nurturing of connate spiritual items and divine items, they'd both grown up. They possessed extraordinary strength. As the various divine objects continued to fuse with it, the divine light emitted from the ancient bell became more and more complete. The countless spaces within the bell continued to expand at astonishing speed, becoming more stable. Lands, seas, flowers, and trees were born. Reincarnation. Reincarnation. Amidst the sound of the bell, 2 ancient notes could be faintly heard. Ancient discs of samsara appeared out of nowhere on the surface of the ancient bell. They constantly revolved around the ancient bell. Every projection of the discs of samsara was interwoven with the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, and all the living beings in the world. There were a total of 5 of such plates of reincarnation outside the ancient bell. Rumble. The glow from the bell constantly strengthened at every moment. It became denser and denser. With a series of rapid chimes, all the light gathered together, and the 6th plate of samsara condensed out of nowhere. The moment it condensed, the light from the bell immediately dimmed. However, as more and more divine items were refined, the dim divine light grew stronger. In the blink of an eye, another 100 years passed in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. No one knew how many divine items had been fused into it, but 8 plates of reincarnation had appeared outside the bell of reincarnation. Clang! The ancient bell vibrated and the surrounding void shattered at a speed visible to the naked eye, shattering into dust amidst the bell chimes. The scene of great destruction appeared all around. A vast pressure caused the void around the ancient bell to distort. Good, good, good. After spending so much wealth, The bell of reincarnation has finally been upgraded to a top-tier innate peerless treasure. When I meet Paragon of Judgment again, I'll show him the power of this ancient bell. Dark squinted his eyes and squealed. Oomph, I'll give him a bell. Tion sneered. The Celestial Emperor's chariot. Tion shouted. Rumble. A huge fissure appeared in the void. Inside the fissure, 9 ferocious dragons, each at least 100,000 zhang long, crossed the void with ferocious gazes. They pulled a huge chariot full of Emperor's might as they flew through the void. The primordial 9 dragons really rose to the unparalleled grade after devouring Great Emperor shrouding heaven's peerless demonic dragons. Dark couldn't help but cry out in surprise when he saw this. The dragon scales on the 9 dragons seemed to have become even finer, and each dragon scale had a unique Tao pattern that shone with a dazzling divine light. Each Tao pattern was like a tiny dragon roaming about. His gaze, which was originally somewhat fierce, was now filled with the light of wisdom. Spiritual intelligence. Instead of 9 dragon claws, they had 18 dragon claws. Each dragon claw was so powerful that it seemed like it could tear the chaos apart. The majestic dragon aura shook the surroundings. Roar, roar, roar. The domineering dragon roar seemed to be competing with the bell of reincarnation. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1243. Boom, boom. The domineering dragon roar almost shattered the surrounding void on the spot, showing signs of great destruction. The vast pressure brought with it the aura of the immemorial age. Each of them was the ancestor of the hundreds of millions of dragon clan in the world. Any drop of blood in their body could create a new species of dragon clan. Any dragon would feel an oppressive force emanating from their bloodline from the dragon's might that they exuded. If the 3 princesses of the dragon clan, Ao Qing, Ao Hong, and Ao Shui were in front of them, they would immediately kneel on the ground due to the pressure from the bloodline. The majestic dragon aura naturally spread out in all directions. The primordial 9 dragons greet your majesty. The primordial 9 dragons pulled the huge celestial emperor chariot and appeared in front of Tion. They did not display the majesty of the peerless realm, but bowed their heads respectfully. Very good. It seems that you have gained sentience after devouring the demonic dragons and using the power of the celestial emperor's chariot. Since you still acknowledge me, I will not treat you unfairly. If there is nothing going on, you are free to do as you please. If there is a war, you must return to your positions. There is a seat for you in the Purple Heaven Pavilion, and you will receive a monthly salary. You will enjoy the benefits of being a member of the Purple Heaven Pavilion. Are you satisfied? Seeing that the primordial 9 dragons had gained sentience, Tion did not treat them lowly. Instead, he gave them the same treatment and status. Whatever the peerless realm experts could enjoy, they could also enjoy. Thank you, your majesty. The primordial 9 dragons said in unison. Although they did not make many vows, the determination in their eyes represented their determination. Clang, clang. Sakura nodded and casually pointed at the 9 iron chains that were wrapped around the 9 dragons. On the iron chains, the sound of the iron chains breaking was immediately heard. In the blink of an eye, the 9 dragons and the chariot were separated in an instant. He then said, "You guys find a place to meditate first. This emperor wants to reforge the chariot." Yes, the primordial 9 dragons did not say anything unnecessary. They found a place to absorb the yuan qi of heaven and earth on their own to stabilize their cultivation. It was a rare opportunity for them to break through. They had an extraordinary obsession with becoming stronger. Tion stared at the war chariot in front of him, which exuded a strong emperor's might, as if it was the celestial emperor's aura. His eyes kept darting back and forth between the chariot's body, the imperial canopy, the silvery white devil punishing war spear, and the violet gold judgment war spear. Even the celestial emperor's furnace, which was one with the war chariot, had images of the sun, the moon, the stars, all things in the heavens and infinite living beings. Madman D, this celestial emperor's chariot can't keep up with your speed of improvement. It doesn't match your status. This time, we'll reforge it. We must make it the one and only emperor's chariot in the chaos world. No one can compare to it. Ming said with a strange smile. The celestial emperor's chariot was a top-grade connate spirit treasure jointly forged by the various races of the purple gold continent. In the past, wherever the war chariot went, even mighty figures would have to retreat. But now, his enemy was at the level of a sovereign. A top-grade connate spirit treasure could be pierced through with a single blow. It looked impressive, but was useless. It could no longer keep up with his progress. At this moment, while he was reforging his supreme treasures, he naturally could not neglect the war chariot. Back then, with the various races' ability, it was already the best they could do to forge a top-grade connate spirit treasure. But now, it's not difficult for me to reforge the war chariot. Tian already had an idea about reforging the war chariot. What was a war chariot? It was his carriage. It was like an emperor going out of the palace. If he rode an ox carriage, his face would probably be thrown into a ravine. This was about face. It represented his own face and the face of the forces behind him. If the celestial emperor's chariot was casually pierced through, his momentum would be at a disadvantage. It would be a loss of face for no reason. It was imperative to reforge the war chariot. Imperial Jade Seal, shatter it and merge it into the war chariot. With a flash of light in Tian's hand, the Imperial Jade Seal, exuding rich golden Emperor Qi, appeared out of thin air. On the Imperial Jade Seal, there were scenes of countless living beings worshipping and praying. Countless ferocious beasts were roaring as they surrounded the Imperial Jade Seal. Under the Imperial Jade Seal, there were golden lines outlining limitless longevity for ancient divine runes. This was the Imperial Jade Seal used by Emperor Limitless when he was in charge of the Wanshou Imperial Dynasty. It contained boundless Emperor's fate and the Emperor's Qi that had been accumulated for countless years. Bang! The Imperial Jade Seal shattered in an instant, turning into fine powder and merging into the war chariot. Rumble! At this moment, the Celestial Emperor's furnace in the Celestial Emperor's chariot was activated, refining all the power in the Imperial Jade Seal and sending it into the war chariot. Light, purple gold, divine light burst out of the chariot out of nowhere. The sun, moon, and stars on the chariot seemed to have come to life, flickering with resplendent divine light. They were vivid and lifelike, as if they were truly at the center of the universe. Supreme. There seemed to be countless dragon roars erupting from the war chariot. The Imperial Jade Seal was only the first item. Immediately, the Emperor's robe stripped from Emperor Limitless was refined into the war chariot, fusing it into the Celestial Emperor's Imperial canopy to strengthen its defense. There was also the Chaos Membrane found in the City of Chaos. Divine stones of heaven, earth, and man-emperor bones, and so on. Many innate divine items were not stingy and were fused into the war chariot. Emperor's celestial pillar tempered the war chariot. Tian waved his hand again, and a golden celestial pillar of the great Tao appeared. It burst with a rich Emperor's Qi, the unique and righteous, and used the Celestial Emperor's celestial pillar to temper the Celestial Emperor's war chariot. Another 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. Of course, this was in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. Outside, the Demon Court was still heading straight for the agreed battlefield, the Death Domain. They approached quickly, traversing tens of thousands of miles in an instant. Meanwhile, in a strange region in primal chaos, it was a blood-colored land mass, filled with towering mountain peaks and soil that seemed capable of oozing blood. Scars of battle could be seen on the mountain peaks, such as saber scars, axe scars, palm prints, and other such things. The energy fluctuations in those scars were enough to seriously injure a consummate expert, or even reduce them to dust. Not even someone with an undying body would be able to do anything to them. Wreckage was everywhere, and chaotic tempests were everywhere. All sorts of chaotic attacks could be unleashed, and even the most consummate experts would be reduced to dust. Broken sabers, swords, and magical treasures could be seen everywhere. Broken limbs were strewn all over the blood-colored landmass. It was almost as if the landmass were alive and emanated terrifying pressure. At a glance, it was impossible to tell how vast it was. An invisible barrier covered the entire landmass, blocking out the primal chaos energy. However, the vast primal chaos energy continued to pour in, forming chaotic tempests and countless energy vortexes on the surface of the barrier. Toxins, tempests, tides, death rays, flames, and so on constantly flashed across the landmass. This was not a normal landmass, but a land full of death. Even a consummate expert would not be willing to enter this area. Once they entered, they would not be able to control their own life and death. However, this was also the most famous forbidden area in the primal chaos, called the Death Domain. Here, there was a strange rule and characteristic, and that was that the space here, even the sky, earth, and mountains, all had an unimaginable stability. Even a consummate attack from a consummate expert would not be able to destroy anything inside, not even the mountains. Even a sovereign would not be able to destroy the landmass here, shatter the land. Moreover, there was a unique characteristic, and that was there was a rule in this land. Any cultivator who entered had to kill a cultivator who was also on the landmass if they wanted to leave. If there was no other cultivator, they would not be able to leave. If they forced their way in, the landmass would suppress them. Even a sovereign would not be able to avoid it. It was extremely strange. Rumor had it that this land mass appeared mysteriously. No one knew its origin. In short, it was not an existence born in the primal chaos. However, due to its unique characteristic, it was eventually called the Death Domain, the most ideal place for duels in the primal chaos. Two cultivators would enter, and only one would come out alive. Once inside, it was either you or I who died. The rule was filled with a tragic aura. It was either life or death, and no one was an exception. It was also the reason why this place was filled with the smell of blood. Unless one was a mortal enemy, no one would enter this place. However, it also made this place a unique area. Currently, outside the Death Domain, there are many mighty figures that one would not be able to see even if they wanted to. Numerous massive divine artifacts were scattered outside. There were huge islands, ferocious-looking warships, huge altars, and so on. Each of the god artifacts was guarded by experts. Among them, there were large groups of primordial deities and unparalleled demon emperors from the demon god continent. Even the unparalleled mighty figures from the purple gold continent were gathered in various places. None of the cultivators were below the peerless realm. This place was like a gathering of mighty figures. Of course, some were cultivating with their eyes closed, while others were chatting in groups of 2 or 3. There's less than a year left until the deadline that Paragon of Judgment and the Shifter Emperor agreed on. I wonder if the Shifter Emperor will come. After all, this is a battle with a Paragon. No matter how strong the Shifter Emperor is, he's only a half-step sovereign. The outcome is worrying. Maybe the Shifter Emperor will miss the appointment. A primordial deity laughed strangely. That's not necessarily true. Paragon of Judgment and the Shifter Emperor agreed on the rule back then. If anyone doesn't abide by it, the punishment won't come from the world's laws, but the real Great Tao's laws. Even Paragon of Judgment can't withstand it, let alone the Shifter Emperor. This battle of life and death will not be missed. Another deity said loudly, "To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Come. Your support is my greatest motivation." Chapter 1244. News of the battle between Di Shirtion and Paragon of Judgment in the heaven-reaching tower had spread far and wide, especially the battle declaration. It was made in front of the Great Tao precepts. The great Tao precepts were existences above the laws. The laws were the laws. Even the sovereigns couldn't violate the laws. Once violated, there was a possibility of death. The battle declaration of life and death was made in front of the great Tao precepts. It was an agreement that had to be fulfilled. The exposure and spread of this agreement immediately made the life and death desolation domain the focus of countless eyes in the primal chaos. An intense battle between a paragon and a non-paragon was an unimaginable story in the primal chaos. Moreover, both of them were famous almighties. One was an immemorial paragon, and the other was the shifter emperor. A large number of almighties were attracted to this place. They gathered here to watch the battle that would shock the primal chaos. This was especially so when they learned from a primordial god fiend that practiced divination that the paragon of judgment had a 60% chance of winning, while the shifter emperor had a 40% chance of winning. This attracted the attention of countless mighty figures. This probability wasn't overwhelming, but rather a situation where both sides were evenly matched. It attracted the curiosity of countless people. This was a grand event. Those who were qualified to attend were all unparalleled existences. Those who weren't unparalleled existences didn't even have the right to watch the battle. It could be said to be the greatest battle in the world. That's right. No matter what, Paragon of Judgment and the Shifter Emperor can't break their promise. This battle will definitely take place. I've already investigated the Shifter Emperor's past. Although it hasn't been long since his debut, he has been able to create shocking miracles time and time again. He defeated the strong with the weak and fought against the strong with the small. This time, he might be able to contend against Paragon of Judgment. It will definitely be an exciting battle. A divine demon said excitedly. He was quite curious about the battle that was about to begin. Paragons of immemorial paragons rarely take action. This time, we can watch the battle with our own eyes. It will definitely be an unimaginable experience for our cultivation. Who knows, we might be able to comprehend profound truths from the battle and break through our bottlenecks and advance further. It was obvious that all the experts wanted to gain some insights from such a shocking battle to improve their cultivation. In this world, one's cultivation was often the most important thing. A mere demon sovereign dares to fight against a paragon? You're simply courting death. Don't get smashed into smithereens by Paragon the moment you step onto the stage. That would be truly embarrassing. At this moment, a disdainful voice echoed in the chaos. Crash! As the sound of his voice faded, all the major characters in the surroundings turned their gazes to the source of the voice, only to see that the one who spoke was actually a group of devil gods standing on a gigantic devil foundation. Their bodies were all exuding cold devil chi. It's an expert from the Fiend Celestial continent, said a primordial Fiend Celestial after recognizing him. The Demon God continent and the Purple Gold continent have always been mortal enemies. They must be hoping that the Demon Emperor will fall in this battlefield. This way, when they invade the Purple Gold continent, they will have one less terrifying enemy. Almost instantly, most of the mighty figures knew what the demon gods were thinking. Tisk TSK. You people from the Demon God continent only know how to talk behind people's backs. If you have the guts, you can tell the Shifter Emperor in front of him. Don't dare. You're just a bunch of gutless rats. At this moment, on the other side, a group of mighty figures with different auras stood on a gigantic battleship. The one at the front had a pair of pitch-black dragon horns on his forehead. His two eyes were abnormally strange, as if he possessed terrifying power. He sneered. That's right. If they dared to speak to the Shifter Emperor like that back then, they wouldn't be standing here right now. They would have entered the battlefield to fight the Shifter Emperor to the death. A beautiful woman in a colorful dress had an arrogant expression on her face as she sneered disdainfully. Torch Dragon, Old Mother Phoenix, in my opinion, why don't we enter the battlefield with these demon gods to warm up? We can liven things up for the Shifter Emperor when he kills a paragon, said an old man suddenly with a faint smile. Star-Lord, don't think that the Demon God continent is afraid of you. If you want to fight, the Demon God continent is always ready to entertain you. The bloody blade demon revealed a sinister smile as he swept a cold glance at the mighty figures from the purple gold continent. His words showed no signs of weakness. As the two sides exchanged a few words, there were already signs of intense sparks flying. The surrounding aura in the chaos suddenly became abnormally oppressive. Rumble. At this moment, there was a violent tremor in the chaos. A pitch-black belt of light stretched out from the depths of the chaos out of thin air, all the way to the life and death domain. On the black belt of light, one could clearly see countless fiend celestials fighting and slaughtering each other. Countless demonic beasts were fighting each other. It was filled with boundless hostility. It soared into the sky, isolating the boundless chaos. Demon, demon, demon. Within the belt of light, there seemed to be terrifying roars that were constantly shouting, presenting scenes of the history of the demon god civilization. A pressure that even the chaos was intimidated rapidly covered the vast area along the belt of light. All the mighty figures in the vicinity could only feel a terrifying pressure on their shoulders. It was as if they were about to kneel down on the spot. They were about to welcome the supreme existence in the distance. It's the demon Ancestor. Zhulong suddenly closed his eyes and spat out a solemn voice. All the powerhouses on the warship had an unusually solemn expression on their faces as they stared at the end of the belt of light. They circulated their cultivation techniques to resist the powerful pressure from the outside world. Rumble. Realizing that a top-notch existence was about to descend, the many mighty figures who had been discussing animatedly and drawing swords at each other's throats all stopped talking and looked forward. At the end of the black belt of light, 9 huge demon palaces emerged out of thin air and appeared in front of the crowd in the blink of an eye along the belt of light. The majestic pressure caused the surrounding chaos to roll violently on the spot. The auras emanating from the 9 demonic palaces were all different, but they were all unabashedly above the rest of the world, making even the most powerful beings feel like they were extremely small and insignificant. At the same time, an invisible pressure appeared on the ancestral dragon warship out of thin air. The majestic pressure caused the entire warship to fall violently. The surrounding chaos shattered, and the warship roared violently, showing signs of breaking at any time. Torch Dragon and the other mighty figures on the warship felt like ants that were about to be crushed into pieces. Humph! Heart-devouring demon lord, don't you care about your reputation? How dare you attack a group of juniors? How shameless! Roar! At this moment, 9 dragon roars came from the chaos. 9 primordial 9 dragons that were hundreds of thousands of feet long pulled a black war chariot across the void. On the war chariot, a black-robed demon lord was seen with his hands behind his back. His face was cold and callous, and his black demonic hair danced wantonly. A kind of arrogance and domineering demonic aura that belonged to the demon lord was on full display. With a wave of his hand, the pressure that had fallen on Torch Dragon and the others dissipated instantly. That's right. If you're itching for a fight, this old man can also accompany you for a few rounds. Bullying a group of juniors is demeaning for no reason. The Space Dominator, who was dressed in a snow-white robe and holding the Book of Space, came across the void on a huge Kuan-Pung. He looked at the 9 demon palaces with a faint smile. Humph! Demon Lord, Space, the main characters today are not the few of us. If you want to fight, you will naturally have a chance in the future. However, I'm afraid that a peerless genius of your purple gold continent will fall today. I, depraved demon lord, will raise my cup to watch the battle. The fallen demon lord smiled faintly and casually retorted. It's still too early to make a conclusion about who has fallen. Perhaps the one who will fall will be the other side. Rumble. A vast river swept across the void from afar. Countless living beings flashed within the river. Past, present, future, and so on. All kinds of unique auras flickered within the river. Stepping on the river, the Fate Dominator, who seemed to have experienced many vicissitudes of life, appeared. His voice seemed to contain the mysteries of fate. Fate may not be unchangeable. However, the Yao Emperor has yet to become a sovereign. Against the Paragon of Judgment, who has reached the late-stage sovereign level, it's like an egg striking a rock. Judgment's chances of victory are far greater than the Yao Emperor's. At this moment, Ancestor Lifeless, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. Then let's wait and see. When the Fate Dominator heard this, he didn't refute it. At their level, things like quarrels rarely happened. Usually, it was enough for them to express their opinions. As for who was right and who was wrong, as long as they arrived at the end, they would naturally know the result. If they didn't get along, they could only fight. Rumble. At this moment, the primal chaos energy in the distance began to churn violently. It was constantly being pulverized. As the primal chaos shattered, numerous worlds were born, only to be destroyed in an instant. A supreme and domineering aura swept over. Boundless tides of primal chaos were swept up. In the blink of an eye, a huge figure appeared before the eyes of all the major powers. When they saw this, all the mighty figures were so frightened that they immediately jumped up. The Paragon Divine Domain. My goodness, the Paragon Divine Domain actually appeared here. What's going on? Rumor has it that ever since the Paragon Divine Domain was born, it has never moved. It has always been stationary. Could it be that the Paragon Divine Domain wants to use it to intimidate everyone? Some of the primordial god fiends sucked in a breath of cold air and let out strange cries. Their eyes were filled with shock and excitement. It really is the Paragon Divine Domain. It's an immortal grade divine artifact, one of only two in the primal chaos. I didn't expect to see the most ancient of them here. It seems that the Paragon Divine Domain values the Yao Emperor quite a bit. He even placed the Yao Emperor on the level of a sovereign. One of the major powers took a deep breath and quickly analyzed the situation. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1245. Could the Yao Emperor truly be strong enough to contend against a primeval autarch? Could it be that the sovereign divine realm, which hadn't been mobilized for countless years, was willing to make such a big move? Could it be to guard against the Yao Emperor's demon court? All sorts of thoughts flashed through the minds of the crowd when they saw the sovereign divine realm's appearance. Almost immediately, they guessed that the immortal grade divine artifact was most likely here to keep the Yao Emperor's demon court in check. That way, the Yao Emperor would have no choice but to fulfill his promise and fight Paragon of Judgment alone. But at the same time, it also gave all the mighty figures a new understanding of this arranged battle. The 9 arch-fiend ancestors of the Fiend God Continent, the 3 sovereigns of the Violet Gold Continent, and the 9 primeval autarchs of the primeval gods and demons. Almost all the sovereigns of the primal chaos are here. Could it be that this battle isn't as simple as it seems? Perhaps there's some unknown secret at play. Almost all of the sovereign lords had arrived, and all of the cultivators present were keenly aware that something was amiss with the auras in the air. Rumble. The sovereign divine realm streaked through the air like a god descending from the heavens. Sinister-looking crossbows exuded chilling, killing intent, and cold arrows were pointed in every direction. They were scattered across every inch of space, like a hedgehog covered in sharp spikes. Killing intent pierced through the sun and moon, shaking the starry sky. 9 imposing figures stood in the sky above the sovereign divine realm, exuding an aura of supremacy. Their gazes swept over the 9 arch-fiend ancestors and the 3 sovereigns. They didn't even look at the other peerless experts. Paragon of Judgment was dressed in a profound yellow robe. He carried an ancient profound yellow sword on his back and wore a flat imperial crown on his head. His expression was cold and dignified. He took a step forward and looked at the 3 sovereigns. Fate, Space, Fiend Master, he said coldly, the 10-year deadline has arrived. Where is the Yao Emperor? Could it be that he's hiding in some corner and doesn't dare to come out? His voice naturally revealed a kind of innate, strong confidence and contempt. He stood at the top of the world. Judgment, the 10-year deadline hasn't really been reached yet. Aren't you being a little too hasty? If you're itching to fight, I'll gladly oblige. If you don't have the guts, then scram. The Fiend Master stood on his war chariot, his expression cold and arrogant. Every word of his was filled with an undeniable, domineering power and dominance. His last 3 words, in particular, transformed into a cold rebuke. Rumble. Between the Devil Lord and the Paragon of Judgment, the primal chaos exploded as if dozens of peerless experts had self-detonated at the same time. Monstrous waves surged towards the Paragon of Judgment like a tsunami that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The primal chaos energies judgment, S2's to judgment. To Paragon of Judgments, to the sovereigns, the 2 of them collided violently, shattering the surrounding chaos. The demons and sword lights were all defeated, but the judge's face was strangely flushed, and his entire body trembled violently. To the heavens he, of his, to the Tess. When the 2 of them clashed, it was obvious who had the upper hand. Without any suspense, Judgment was at a disadvantage. The confidence that he had built up was crushed in an instant. Fiend Master, even if you want to help the Shifter Emperor, you don't have to be so obvious. At this moment, the fallen demon Ancestor said with a faint smile. Vaguely, there was an inexplicable meaning behind his words. He was indirectly blaming the Fiend Master for breaking the rules and aiding the Shifter Emperor. Face is given by others. Similarly, it's also given by one's own loss. The Fiend Master coldly snorted. He glanced at the fallen demon Ancestor with disdain and said coldly, "Hiss." Just a few words, but it made the surrounding experts' hearts tremble. Every word was full of hidden meaning, making them tremble in fear. They sighed inwardly. This battle wasn't going to be a good show. Who knows, there might be a disaster waiting to happen. Before the battle even started, the killing intent had already filled the air. If the battle really started, small fries like us would be crushed into dust. Some of the experts couldn't help but regret coming to watch the battle. Now, it seemed that they had made a mistake. No one would have thought that the moment the 3 sides met, the smell of gunpowder would be so strong. That's right. Judgment, if you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish today. Rumble. At this moment, in the distance, the primordial chaos churned violently as waves of chi towered up into the sky. A towering divine might gushed over like tidal waves. Tens of thousands of auspicious clouds emitted auspicious light. Within the auspicious clouds, an ancient divine city could be seen. For gigantic heavenly gates could be seen, exuding a heaven-shaking might. 4 ancient celestial kings could be seen guarding the 4 directions. Millions of fairies were flying around the ancient city. There were no walls, but it could contain countless living beings. It was a magnificent place. Bustling and bustling scenes kept appearing. Strange scenes flashed one after another. Divine dragons, cheelants, white tigers, and other auspicious signs were moving around the ancient city. In front of the southern heavenly gate, they lined up neatly. Millions of demons stood together, and their auras were connected. Above the demon army, the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, the black tortoise, and the cheelan, each of which was hundreds of thousands of feet long, appeared out of nowhere and let out a domineering roar. A blood-red battleship floated above the southern heaven gate. On the battleship, countless blood-kill guards stood at every important position. Murderous intent filled the air. The primordial 9 dragons were pulling a purple-gold war chariot in the center. Tion stood on the war chariot in a domineering manner. Around him, all the important officials of the demon court gathered behind him. Chun-Shi, Mei-Exin, Katomi, Baihu, and the others looked at the figure on the war chariot with solemn expressions. The demon court, it's the demon emperor. An almighty cultivator couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the approaching Ling Xiao demon court. His eyes were filled with astonishment. He had a feeling that the ancient city in front of him was even more terrifying than the one from the sovereign domain they had come to before. Tion's arrival attracted all the gazes on the spot to him, especially Paragon of Judgment. When he saw Huang Xiaolong arrive, his eyes narrowed into slits. When he saw the blood-red battleship, the killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. He gritted his teeth and said, "Demon Emperor, Judgment." Tion didn't back down. He met Paragon of Judgment's sharp gaze, which seemed capable of piercing through heaven and earth. Huang Xiaolong slowly spat out a sentence. "Very good. You actually dare to come. I thought you were too afraid to come out. I was planning to drag you out myself. Now that you're here, you've saved me a lot of trouble." Paragon of Judgment said coldly. "That's right. This emperor is here." Tion didn't argue with him. He said calmly, "However, whether you or I will die, we won't know until the end." Half-step sovereign. Very good. You took 10 years, but you're still just a half-step sovereign. Today, I'll let you know the difference between a half-step sovereign and a supreme. If you have any last words, you'd better say them now. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to say them again. Paragon of Judgment sneered. As an emperor, I must bravely advance without fear. Even if there are thousands of soldiers and horses, I can still walk on blood. In the face of battle, only I will survive. This emperor is certain that I will be the only one standing. What last words do you have? Sakura glanced at the supreme trial with a look of contempt and cautiously spat out a sentence. "You die, I live." On the other side, a beautiful figure walked out of the heart, devouring Demon Lord's palace. At a closer look, this figure's appearance and figure were indescribable. The most amazing thing was that this figure looked exactly the same as concubine Bewitching Heart, who was standing in front of the Southern Heaven's Gate. Her appearance and aura were incomparably similar. However, there was a trace of anger on her face as she stared at Bewitching Heart. "Bewitching Heart, how dare you betray me?" The heart-devouring demon lord shouted coldly. "If you return to your position, I can forgive you for now. Otherwise, you know what I'm capable of." When Bewitching Heart saw the heart-devouring demon lord, a trace of panic appeared in her eyes. However, when she looked at Tion and the demon court, she naturally felt a trace of confidence. She mocked, "Heart-devouring demon, don't pretend to be kind. You are me, and I am you. Ever since I left your body, I have a completely independent fate. If I return to my position, what awaits me will be my consciousness being erased by you. I'll become a heart-devouring demon again and become your heart. To you, it's returning to your position, but to me, it's death. I'm Bewitching Heart, not heart-devouring demon." Her words carried a kind of hysterical accusation. It was a kind of fear and anger that had been accumulating for countless years. Any living being that was born with consciousness was an independent life. It was impossible for them to not have their own thoughts. If Bewitching Heart were to return to her position, it would undoubtedly be a death. Demons were selfish by nature. How could Bewitching Heart, who had gained consciousness, be willing to die? Her resistance towards the heart-devouring demon lord had reached an unimaginable level. Do you really think that the demon emperor beside you can protect you? The heart-devouring demon lord glanced at Tion with disdain. He sneered, "My husband's ability isn't something that you can understand." Bewitching Heart didn't back down and looked straight at the heart-devouring demon lord. "I'm immortal, and you're immortal. With me here, whoever dares to touch my concubine, I'll poke you to death with a finger." Tion looked at the heart-devouring demon lord coldly and arrogantly. His words carried the boundless tyranny of an emperor. It was as if anyone dared to touch his loved ones, he would really poke that person into dust with a finger. "Huh." The heart-devouring demon lord laughed in anger. Good, very good. Demon Emperor, wait until you can come out of the final battle alive before you say this to me. Who dares to touch what's mine?" Traces of killing intent flashed in his eyes. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 1246. A great war has begun. Requesting monthly votes. The heart-devouring demon Ancestor's anger had accumulated to an unbearable level. Back then, she had suffered an inexplicable calamity in the chaos. Her heart had been smashed out of her body by an inexplicable heavenly coffin. Her cultivation had dropped from the demon ancestor level to the half-step demon ancestor level. Countless years of humiliation had almost driven her crazy. What she found most intolerable was that her heart had left her body and landed on the purple gold mainland. Not only had it gained sentience, but it had also dared to disobey. Not only had it refused to return to its original position, but it had even tried to replace her. Even with her demon ancestor level, she could not suppress the anger in her heart. Replace. That's right. From the moment the bewitching heart refused to return to its original position, she had already seen through all of her thoughts. As a demon god, she understood the cunning and demonic nature of demon gods all too well. How could she allow such an existence to continue living? What was even more unbearable was that the bewitching heart had lost her virginity. The two of them could sense each other in one body. No matter what, she could not allow the bewitching heart to continue living. Tion saw the murderous look in the heart-devouring demon ancestor's eyes and turned to the demon master. Demon master, can you watch over the heart-devouring demon ancestor for me until I return after killing Judgment Paragon? All right. The demon master nodded in an unusually carefree manner. Go ahead. The three of us will watch over here. Let's see who dares to act rashly. However, remember to come back alive. The three of us came here to watch over you. Go ahead without worry. No one can touch your demon court, the Space Lord said with a smile. The Space God said with a faint smile. Although he didn't say anything harsh, everyone could hear the confidence in his voice. Hearing this, whether it was the primordial paragon or the 9 demon ancestors, they could not help but reveal a slight chill. However, when they looked at the demon master and the other two, they still had a certain amount of fear. There was no other reason. The ruler of the divine tomb could unleash a terrifying destructive power that was 10 times or even 100 times stronger. In the same realm, they were almost invincible. They could not help but be afraid. Otherwise, the purple gold mainland would not have been able to withstand the invasion of the demon gods. The 9 primordial dragons in front of Tion surged with dragon might, as if they were the ancestors of all dragons in the primordial chaos. At the same time, an extremely strong battle intent burst out from their bodies, and they spat out boundless divine radiance as they let out dragon roars. Just the dragon's roar alone was enough to shake the minds of many almighties. He was intimidated by the dragon might. Rumble. The immemorial 9 dragons waved their dragon claws forward, pulling the celestial emperor's war chariot. With a loud rumble, it shot out from the southern heaven gate. As the war chariot moved, countless suns, moons, stars, and the universe appeared on the war chariot. Thousands of creatures appeared and bowed to Tion. For a moment, it was extremely beautiful. It was as if the war chariot was the center of the universe. He was the most supreme existence. An aura of supremacy spread out from the war chariot in all directions. The primal chaos in the surroundings was forcefully separated into 2 sides and continuously shattered. Endless amounts of earth, fire, water, and wind surged out. However, wherever the war chariot went, the earth, fire, water, and wind could not get close to the war chariot. Even the 9 primordial dragons could not be harmed at all. It was as if they were bathing in warm water. Lunatic D, you have to be careful. We have obtained too much information from the ancient city of primordial chaos, including this life and death desolation domain. This continent is a natural battlefield in the primordial chaos. Things inside are extremely stable. Even if a ruler enters, he would not be able to cause too much damage. Space, time, gravity, and so on are incomparable to the outside world. No matter how big the damage is, it can withstand it. But if you want to come out, only one can survive. Either Judge dies, or we die. In particular, there are all kinds of disasters inside. You have to be careful. Dart's expression was extremely solemn, since he had obtained the ancient city of primordial chaos. Although he could not forcefully fuse with it, he continued to refine it. In the process of refining, the various information recorded in it had almost increased the foundation of the demon court. A large amount of knowledge filled the ultimate Emperor Jade archive, including the life and death desolation domain. Only a battle of life and death can force out all of my potential. Tion was not afraid. With an indomitable aura, the celestial Emperor chariot came to the front of the battlefield's barrier. Without a pause, he charged straight in. As soon as he entered, he immediately felt a heavy pressure and restraint from the world outside. It was as if the gravity and stability of the world had increased several times, or even dozens of times. It was as if he was under great pressure at all times. As a result, the original destructive power and range of one's power would be reduced to 10 times its original level. As expected, this is a good battlefield. Tion felt the difference in the world around him. He felt the mysterious yuan qi that filled the air. It actually carried an ancient aura that was difficult to exist in the primordial chaos. It was as if this was a part of the eternal heaven realm. However, he did not feel it for too long. In the blink of an eye, he swept a glance at Paragon of Judgment and said, "Judgment, get in here." In a word, the domineering, decisive, and domineering spirit of an emperor almost broke out of his body. There was no longer any reservation or suppression. An arrogant aura and an emperor's aura enveloped his entire body. In an instant, he was incomparably tall. In a single sentence, the monster emperor that had dominated the primordial chaos had returned once more. These words shocked all the mighty figures who were watching the battle. Their jaws almost dropped to the ground. He wanted an archaic paragon to get down here. In this world, other than the monster emperor, who else would dare to say such words? These words were not ordinary domineering. You can show off for now, but I hope you'll be able to say it later. Paragon of Judgment was expressionless when he heard the words. He only sneered coldly. He seemed to be taking a stroll in the park as he walked toward the battlefield step by step. A mysterious stairway to heaven appeared beneath his feet. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Paragon of Judgment had entered the battlefield. He appeared in front of Tion. With a wave of his hand, a yellow war chariot appeared out of thin air. In front of him, 9 huge purple unicorns pulled the war chariot. He stood on the war chariot, facing Tion directly. It's time to settle the grudge between us. According to the rules of this battlefield, only one of us can leave. Paragon of Judgment coldly looked ahead. Cut the crap. Today, I'll let you know that no one can withstand the wrath of an emperor. Clang! Tion's emperor's aura was as vast as the sea. He activated the ultimate emperor immortal body, and immortal divine rings rapidly appeared from his flesh and blood. A total of 12 undying divine rings appeared around his body, giving him an awe-inspiring emperor's might. His right hand had appeared on the slender hilt of the tiger soul on his back. With a twist of his wrist, a crisp sound rang out. A golden saber light cut through the air. Ultimate Emperor Dao, Emperor's Wrath. The saber followed a mysterious trajectory. It carried the anger of Paragon of Judgment's unfair trial and the anger of being hunted down. In an instant, it was completely poured into the saber. Emperor's Wrath, kill, kill, kill. The figure of an emperor condensed in the tiger's soul. His face was filled with anger, and endless murderous roars came from his mouth. Anger, anger, anger. Emperor's Wrath would be unstoppable, and the sun and moon would lose their light. It was unstoppable. A violent rage swept towards the Paragon of Judgment, wanting to make her fall into a state of lust. Shifter Emperor, how could I not be prepared for your lust? I have the infinite heart jade to protect my mind. Your lust has no effect on me. Today, I'll let you know my true strength. Paragon of Judgment was not affected by the anger that swept toward him. His right hand quickly appeared on the hilt of the judgment battle sword on his back. With a twist of his wrist, the sword was instantly unsheathed. The sword pierced straight toward Di-Shirtian. A light flashed above his head, and a pagoda hung down billions of Xianhuang Qi. Protect the whole body. Judgment Sword Codex. Heavenly Retribution. The sword pierced toward Di-Shirtian's heart. Under the sword, he felt as if he had committed a monstrous sin. The heavens could not tolerate it, and the earth could not bury it. The heavens wanted to kill him, and the earth wanted to destroy him. There was no road to heaven, no door to hell. He felt as if he had surrendered and admitted defeat. His will was about to be completely destroyed. Rumble. The immemorial 9 dragons and the purple unicorn moved at almost the same time. They pulled the war chariot and charged forward like 2 huge armies. Tiger Soul drew out a blade light that was tens of thousands of feet long and slashed toward Paragon of Judgment's head. A terrifying purple flame burned on the blade. Once touched, even one's body would be burned to ashes. However, Paragon of Judgment was under the protection of the pagoda. He did not even have any defense. Sensing the killing intent from Tiger Soul, the pagoda shone brightly. It collided violently with Tiger Soul. On the spot, the Xianhuang Qi on the pagoda was shattered and burned to ashes by the flame on the blade. However, the Xianhuang Qi on the pagoda seemed to be endless. Once a strand was cut off, new Xianhuang Qi would quickly replace it. Although the pagoda was trembling violently, it still blocked Tiger Soul. As for the heavenly retribution, it was swift and fierce, and its will was domineering. The sword pierced out as fast as lightning. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The heavenly emperor's canopy hanging above his head suddenly shone brightly and blocked the sword. On the canopy, countless figures of divine beasts flashed. Countless emperor runes formed a formation and guided all the attacks into the heavenly emperor's furnace in the war chariot. It was quickly refined. Crack! Although the heavenly emperor's canopy had an unparalleled defense, Paragon of Judgment was still a paragon. The sharp sword was in a stalemate with the canopy, but it still managed to pierce through the canopy. Ding! The battle sword that had pierced through the canopy still persistently stabbed straight towards Sakura Tianming. However, at the moment when it was about to pierce his heart, 2 fingers that were shining with purple gold-colored glaze appeared out of thin air. The 2 fingers clasped together, and the body of the battle sword was inconceivably clamped between the 2 fingers. The last bit of judgment power in the sword exploded. It vibrated violently, as if it was going to break the fingers apart and crush them. However, the 2 fingers were like the sea stabilizing divine needle. They were so stable that it was hard to imagine. It was as if they grew out of the ground and clamped the sword tightly. The domineering judgment power was unable to move the 2 fingers. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1247. The Heavenly Monarch War Chariot was reforged by Sakura without a care for the cost. Inside the chariot, countless Monarch-level treasures were smelted into it. The War Chariot's grade soared all the way to the top of the innate cardinal treasures, with a total of 8 innate divine seals. The Celestial Emperor's canopy, on top, specialized in defense. It was even fused with a supreme divine item like the Chaos Membrane. Its defense was unparalleled. Although the Judgment Battle Sword had pierced through the canopy had blocked 90% of the sword's power. How could the remaining power escape from Di-Shirtian's 2 fingers? Go! 12 imperishable divine rings spun between Di-Shirtian's fingers at an astonishing speed, unleashing a wondrous power that dissipated the sword's power. At the same time, the supreme imperial true force poured into the sword. With a twist of his fingers, the sword turned in the opposite direction and slashed back at the Paragon of Judgment. Rumble. The Celestial Emperor's chariot and the Judgment Battle chariot swapped positions the moment the clash ended. Rays of sword light and saber chi scattered in all directions. When they landed on the ground, they only left simple sword and saber marks. It was a short confrontation, but the danger within it was not the slightest bit inferior to any desperate battle. Even the slightest bit of carelessness would lead to a tragic death. There was one law that filled the death domain with the aura of death. Under the laws of heaven and earth, even sovereigns could fall. If one was injured, the wounds could be healed quickly with one's powerful life force. But at the same time, one's own origin energy would be depleted, unable to be replenished from the outside world. The more one's origin energy was depleted, the more one's origin energy would be depleted. If one's head was chopped off, it could grow back, but the consumption of one's origin energy would be even greater. Once one's origin energy was completely depleted, one would die. The weaker one's origin energy was, the weaker one's strength would be. Even sovereigns would only have a stronger origin energy and battle prowess if they entered this place. If they weren't careful, they could still die. It was only a short confrontation, but it caused all the great figures outside to stare without blinking, as they were afraid of missing a single moment. Even though it was short, the scene they witnessed caused their minds to shake, and they exclaimed inwardly, "What a demon emperor! You are indeed powerful. No wonder you dared to challenge an ancient paragon." He was actually not at a disadvantage when fighting against the paragon of judgment. The battle this time is indeed not a one-sided situation. There will definitely be a fierce battle. A primordial god fiend exclaimed, "Not necessarily. We're just testing each other's strength. After all, judgment supremacy is a supremacy. No matter how strong the Beast Emperor is, he won't be able to fight against him. Once the Paragon of Judgment got serious, the Shifter Emperor would definitely be at a disadvantage. The best part is yet to come. However, there were also those who were optimistic about the Judgment Sovereign. After all, the difference in cultivation levels between the two of them was obvious. However, the three rulers, 8 ancient supremes, and 9 demon ancestors did not say anything. Instead, they calmly watched the battle unfold. As people of their level, they knew that it was too early to come to any conclusion until the end. In a fierce battle, anything could happen. Very well. The Paragon of Judgment glanced at the Celestial Emperor's war chariot and said coldly, "Do you think you can withstand my attacks just because you have a top-tier innate cardinal treasure? You will be very disappointed. Watch me break your war chariot. I'll let you know what it means to be a supremacy. Let me tell you, the difference between a supremacy and a supremacy is like the difference between heaven and earth." He stood on the war chariot with a battle sword in his hand. Exuding the aura of a supremacy, he twisted his wrist and slashed at the Celestial Emperor's war chariot. No sword light shot out from the battle sword. Only the Judgment Battle sword's simple and unadorned body was revealed. Only the ancient runes on the sword gave off a unique Taoist rhyme. All of the power in the sword was concentrated in it. The Judgment Battle Sword was a top-tier innate cardinal treasure. A domineering judgment will float around the sword. Judgment Sword Codex, Heavenly Lightning Strike. Good timing. My Celestial Emperor's war chariot has the Demon Punisher and Judgment Battle Spears. Today, I will kill you and refine your body into the Judgment Battle Spears. Your judgment is unfair. What right do you have to wield judgment? Kill. Indra didn't show any signs of weakness. The domineering aura of an emperor almost soared into the sky, and the 12 immortal divine rings burst out with overflowing divine splendor, condensing to the point that they seemed to be solid as they revolved around him. The tiger soul in his hand slashed at the Judgment Battle Sword at an astonishing speed. Extreme Monarch Emperor Tao, devourer of the Tao Tai. It was as if there was a terrifying black hole within the saber, swallowing everything around it like a bottomless pit. Rumble. The 2 war chariots were pulled by the immemorial 9 dragons and the purple unicorn respectively. They charged ferociously in the air above the battlefield. The Judgment Battle Sword and D. Shirtion were like 2 great generals on the battlefield. Not only were they not at a disadvantage in terms of words, but they also did not back down in the slightest. Paragon of Judgment's primordial spirit was one with his flesh and blood. Every sword strike was filled with the true power of judgment. Not a single trace of it was wasted. Every single trace of true power was used to the limit of its destructive power. Every sword strike caused a terrifying crack to appear in the void of the battlefield. The power of every sword strike was solidly poured on Asakura's body. Every strike was exquisite to the extreme. The use of power had reached the extreme. At the same time, Tian was not much weaker than the Judgment Supremacy. His flesh and blood were one with his primordial spirit. The royal immortal true force was infused into his blade. Every strike was accompanied by the roar of tiger. He did not show any signs of weakness as he met the Judgment Supremacy's attacks head-on. His exquisite battle skills were unleashed to the extreme. However, the royal immortal true force was slightly lax. It was as if he could not control the domineering true force in his body due to his cultivation level. While fighting against the paragon of judgment, waves after waves of tyrannical judgment power poured down on Lin Fan's body like a heavy mountain. Even the tiger soul in his hand seemed to be on the verge of being sent flying. However, the Celestial Emperor's war chariot allowed it to continuously channel the external force into the Celestial Emperor furnace. Bang, bang, bang. In just a few breaths of time, the two of them had already exchanged more than 10 blows on the battlefield. Rumble. The surrounding mountains were affected. When the tiger soul was pushed away by the judgment battle sword, a saber landed on a mountain. A sharp saber light flashed, and a section of the blood-red mountain was sliced off. The fierce battle inside had almost reached its climax on the spot. The spectating cultivators outside were shaken, and their blood vessels expanded. What they had expected from the Judgment Supremacy did not happen. On the contrary, there was a vague feeling that they were not at a disadvantage when facing each other head-on. Shifter Emperor, I am the Judgment Supremacy. Supreme Judgment Pagoda, suppress. The Judgment Supremacy and Tian were using weapons to kill each other. During the battle, he could clearly feel that the Judgment Supremacy's battle skills were definitely not inferior to his own. If they continue to fight like this, the outcome would not be decided in a short period of time. The most despicable thing was that the Celestial Emperor's war chariot could help the Judgment Supremacy dispel the Judgment Supremacy's Judgment Supremacy. He didn't even think about it. After another collision, the two of them clashed again. He shouted coldly. Instantly, the Supreme Judgment Pagoda that was hanging above his head flew into the air. Countless ancient runes flashed on the pagoda, and a domineering judgment will flowed within the pagoda. Within the boundless heavenly yellow divine light, countless living beings sang the praises of judgment. It was as if all the living beings in the heavens and realms were disdaining and condemning him. Condemned by 1,000, spurned by 10,000. A terrifying pressure instantly poured down on them. The pagoda became so huge that it could hold up the sky. It directly pressed down on the Heavenly Emperor war chariot. Rumble. The power of this supreme treasure was shocking. Strands of chi of heaven and earth fell from the sky, crushing the surrounding mountains and cracking the earth. The surrounding space collapsed. The terrifying pressure seemed to be able to completely seal the space between heaven and earth. Dang, you want to kill me? Judgment, do you really think that this emperor is still the same person that you could casually kill back then? Give me 10 years, and you will know how powerful this emperor has become. Heaven's reincarnation. Tian snorted coldly as he looked at the pagoda that was pressing down on him. Above his head, an ancient crystal bell appeared out of thin air. As soon as it appeared, the ancient bell began to violently expand. With a violent tremble, it emitted a loud bell sound. The tyrannical sound wave swept towards the pagoda. The scrolls on the bell were very lifelike. Carrying the heaven's reincarnation will, they directly crashed into the pagoda without any intention of dodging. Dang, 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 rumble. Both of them were top-tier Khanate cardinal treasures. When they collided, the surrounding space shattered into pieces. A terrifying spatial storm erupted. Countless beams of divine light shot out in all directions, piercing through the sky and turning the surrounding area into a mess. At the same time, the heaven's reincarnation bell responded with a domineering force. The imperishable divine rings around him trembled violently, and 3 of them were shattered on the spot. The war chariot was pushed back several hundred jong. Shifter Emperor, you are just a half-step sovereign. So what if you have innate supreme treasures? Even if you have supreme treasures, you still won't be able to unleash their full power. Today, I will kill you and let you know that the dignity of a supreme is not something that an ant like you can offend. Judgment Supremacy stepped out of the war chariot with an invincible will and approached Di Shirtian step by step. He pointed at the supreme pagoda, and immediately the pagoda slammed into the heavens' reincarnation bell again. Rumble. Peerless saints used innate spirit treasures while dominator saints used innate cardinal treasures, because peerless saints could unleash the full power of innate cardinal treasures, while dominator saints could unleash the full power of innate cardinal treasures. This was a kind of realm, a kind of invincible belief. The pagoda hit the ancient bell once again. Every strand of Xianhuang Qi seemed to be able to suppress everything in the world. In the collision, the heaven samsara bell was forced to retreat. Every time Di Shirtian received feedback from the ancient bell, he felt as if he was being struck by lightning. However, every time they collided, Di Shirtian's eyes flashed with intense excitement. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 1248. Those with tickets, please raise. How could the paragon of trial know that every time they collided, the overbearing trial true force would cause his flesh and blood to tremble continuously? The 129,600 Supreme Emperor Inextinguishable Emperor talismans were transmitting pure Supreme Emperor Inextinguishable True Force, rapidly refining every inch of his flesh and blood. One could clearly see the intense pressure outside his body. His flesh and blood would turn into purplish-gold crystals at an astonishing speed. Each crystal seemed to contain life and exuded a perfect Tao aura. They formed a hexagonal shape. They looked like crystals, but they also looked like flesh and blood. Every time he suffered a heavy blow, his flesh and blood would transform faster and faster. The crystallized flesh and blood would become incomparably powerful, more than 10 times stronger than before. With the help of the powerful pressure from the Paragon of Judgment, the transformation speed increased rapidly. Indistinctly, his physical body and primordial spirit fused into one. That kind of pure and true power constantly shuttled through his body. The speed of shuttling through the blood and flesh crystal was almost 10 times, 100 times faster than when it was shuttling through the blood and flesh crystal. It was as if with a thought, the true power in his body could arrive instantly. The true force was no longer concentrated in one place, but everywhere. Shifter Emperor, have you run out of tricks? I will kill you to avenge my pitiful little brother. You really deserve to die for killing my little brother. The Paragon of Judgment roared coldly. Boom, boom, boom. As he advanced, the Paragon of Judgment collided with the bell of reincarnation time and time again. Every strand of divine light pierced through the void. Boundless pressure surged towards Di Shirtian. With every step he took, the Celestial Emperor's chariot was pushed back several hundred jong. Vaguely, the Paragon of Judgment was suppressing the Shifter Emperor with his supreme cultivation. This scene immediately caused an uproar when it was seen outside. How is this possible? Just a moment ago, the Yao Emperor was still able to fight evenly with the Paragon of Judgment. He even seemed to be on par with the Paragon of Judgment. How could he suddenly be at a disadvantage? He can't even fight back. Could it be that the Paragon of Judgment is so powerful when he uses a supreme treasure? That's impossible. The difference between before and after is so great. No matter how great the difference between half-step sovereigns is, this shouldn't happen. Given the Yao Emperor's previous performance, there must be something fishy going on. The Shifter Emperor is purposely showing weakness in order to numb Judge's determination. Could it be that the primordial sovereigns are really that powerful? Impossible. As an emperor, the Demon Emperor must still have a lot of trump cards that he hasn't used yet. It's said that back then, in the heaven-reaching pagoda, he once unleashed a strange heavenly coffin, causing the judgment court to be flustered. He hadn't used any of these methods yet. There was definitely something fishy going on. However, if you want to paralyze the trial like this, it will definitely not succeed. As a supreme being, no one will be paralyzed. Almost on the spot, all kinds of discussions immediately sounded in the surroundings. Obviously, there was a strong sense of confusion and doubt about the scene in front of them. Demon Emperor, if you're trying to confuse me, then you're wrong. Even if you're just an ant, I won't let you go. I don't care what you're plotting. If you're not the sovereign lord, then don't even think about fighting me. I'll send you to the Western Paradise. Paragon of Judgment sneered as boundless killing intent burst forth from his body. Judgment Sword Codex, monstrous sins. Rumble. You've sinned, and your crimes are unforgivable. You must be executed. The Judgment War Sword fiercely stabbed towards Sakra's head. The speed of the War Sword seemed to be extremely slow. At the same time, every time it stabbed out, the judgment will burst out from the War Sword at an astonishing speed. It was as if the one in front of him was an evil person with monstrous sins. Heaven and earth couldn't tolerate this, and his crimes were unforgivable. It was as if there were countless living beings on the sword madly criticizing and spitting on it, letting out angry cries of judgment. A monstrous wave of air rushed into the sky like a tsunami. It formed a substantial wave on the battlefield, and within it, countless living beings let out cries of judgment. Wherever it went, the blood-colored mountain in front of it would be pulverized. This was a kind of momentum, an unstoppable tide. Crack! The void around the chariot distorted. It was as if it was imprisoned. Tion waved his hand and sent the Celestial Emperor's chariot and the Primordial Nine Dragons to one side. It blocked the domineering sword head-on. It felt as if the terrifying pressure was going to crush the Emperor's body into powder. Clink, clink, clink. Countless strands of ultimate Emperor indestructible true power in his body began to transform his flesh and blood into crystals at an unprecedented speed under the pressure of external forces. He stood in the air, his black hair dancing wildly behind his head, as if he was standing in the middle of a storm. Whoosh! Two brilliant rays of divine light shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void. An unparalleled majesty poured out, as if an ancient emperor had completely awakened at this moment. He coldly shouted, "Judgment! Do you really think that this emperor made a promise of 10 years with you just to come here and die? Today, I'll let you know who the ant is." Clink, clink, clink. With a cold shout, countless crackling sounds like beans being fried could be heard from within the emperor's body. The ultimate emperor shocks the world, refining the divine cauldron, stabilizing the universe. Ultimate emperor indestructible, shattering the emperor's body, annihilating and rebirth, combining spirit and body, ascending to sovereign. As soon as he finished speaking, one of the 9 demonic cauldrons that had been suppressed in the demon abode suddenly shattered. Within the demonic cauldron, the ultimate emperor's true force rushed out like an ocean and poured into the emperor's body through the demon abode. Each of the 9 demonic cauldrons had the enormous power of a half-step sovereign. Every mouthful could instantly create a half-step sovereign realm almighty. The power contained within was so strong that it was rarely seen in the world. At this moment, when one of the demonic cauldrons shattered, the surging power immediately poured into his body, surging into the 129,600 Ultimate Emperor's indestructible Emperor talismans around him. Originally, the power in his body was only one step away from sovereign. Now he had this enormous power, and it was the purest Ultimate Emperor's true force. on the spot, his flesh and blood all transformed into crystals. Endless divine light burst forth. Boom, boom, boom. The 12 indestructible divine rings around his body spun at almost the same time. When all the divine rings spun at the same time, the power produced was already at the peak of the Emperor's body. With this, the entire Emperor's body collapsed and was crushed to pieces. The Emperor's body completely disintegrated, and the flesh and blood all turned into 129,600 drops of purplish gold blood essence. Each drop of blood essence had become as hard as a crystal and was almost indestructible. Outside each crystal, 12 indestructible divine rings spun continuously. From the void, the endless desire of love poured into every drop of blood essence like a tide. The enormous ultimate Emperor's true force flowed within the blood essence. Each drop of blood essence contained an ultimate Emperor's indestructible Emperor talisman. Gather! With a decisive shout, all the blood essence quickly gathered in a mysterious ultimate Emperor's indestructible divine formation in a miraculous way. It spun rapidly and gathered in the center. In the blink of an eye, the shattered body was once again reformed at an astonishing speed. The powerful Emperor's body stood in the void. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the Emperor's true body was formed, it was completely released, revealing its original body. A majestic Emperor's body that was 100 million feet tall stood in the void. Outside it, the 13th indestructible divine ring, the divine ring of love, formed. 13 indestructible divine rings were born from the flesh and blood at the same time. The divine rings that surrounded the Emperor's body made it seem incomparably majestic. Within the newly born divine ring of love, the enormous ultimate Emperor's true force and the power of desire poured into it like a tide. The illusory divine ring transformed at an incredible speed, turning into a real entity at an astonishing speed. It was becoming stronger with every passing moment. I am the Emperor. I have become the ruler, and I have suppressed the desire realm. Primordial spirit, physical body, I am the ruler. From Di Shirtian's Emperor's body, waves of majestic Emperor's aura spread wildly in all directions. The space around him was distorted inch by the pressure. Vaguely, the entire world seemed to be under his control, dominating everything, wielding the heavenly Tao. Powerful, unprecedentedly powerful. At this moment, what appeared on his body was a supreme Emperor's aura that was 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times stronger than before. On the Emperor's body, purplish gold-colored divine light kept flowing. Outside the battlefield, all the peerless almighties who were staring at Di Shirtian's body screamed in pain. Their eyes instantly closed, and one could see streaks of blood flowing out of their pupils. They couldn't look directly at the Emperor's body. Just a glance was enough to injure their eyes from the divine light, almost blinding them. Rumble. Above his head, an enormous 9-colored tribulation cloud gathered from all directions at an incredible speed, covering the entire battlefield. Traces of shocking pressure poured out from the tribulation cloud. Impossible. How did you become a ruler? To become a ruler, one's primordial spirit and flesh and blood must be united. How did you do it? There are countless half-step sovereigns, and those who are able to take that final step have to spend thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years. How could you have so easily taken that step? You should have been able to become a sovereign long ago. You're lying to me. Paragon of Judgment's expression changed drastically, and he let out a furious roar. He immediately understood what was going on. A last-minute breakthrough? Such a thing wouldn't be strange if it happened when one was weak, but the stronger one was, the rarer it would be. At the peerless realm, last-minute breakthroughs were practically impossible. Even the slightest bit of improvement would take thousands of years, especially when one was breaking through from half-step ruler to ruler. There was no such thing as a last-minute breakthrough at this step, and yet Di Shirtian had done it. Clearly, this wasn't a real last-minute breakthrough. He had the strength to break through long ago, but had forcibly suppressed it until now. Previously, he had faced Paragon of Judgment in a weak state, numbing Paragon of Judgment. Although Paragon of Judgment took him seriously, he still followed Paragon into the battlefield. In the end, there was no way out, so he finally broke through. His intentions were murderous. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.